The Majority Report with Sam Cedar, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
It is Friday, December 22nd, 2017. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live, steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. It is the final Friday, in fact, final day of live transmission from this program in 2017. How will we spend it? Will we be casual? I don't think so. Joining us today, Fran Lebowitz, author, cultural critic, icon. Followed by Cliff Schecter, author, political critic, icon. Followed by Isabel Gillies, author. Not a critic, really. Very actually upbeat. And critic Matthew Film Guy. All to recap 2017 and to send us into 2018. Meanwhile, a government shutdown averted. DACA recipients left hanging. Child health care gets a quick, brief reprieve. Meanwhile, ICE wants to separate families at the border. White House weighing that decision. Can we get matching cattle cars?
I wonder where it will come down.
At the EPA, a mass exodus as the agency assaults the environment. And surprise, surprise, Breitbart cops to being shills. 2 emoluments clause suits bounce from a federal court in New York City for lack of standing. And in a small, tiny bit of good news about the courts, Anthony Kennedy seemingly not retiring yet makes that Senate far more important, folks. Jeff Sessions says it's an open season for municipalities to once again treat folks living in poverty as ATMs. And the Labor Department wants to allow restaurant employers to take their workers' tips. All that and more on today's program, ladies and gentlemen. It is the final live show of the year. I said yesterday, and I will repeat, in the event that some serious news goes down, we'll figure out a way. Maybe we'll put out a live stream on YouTube. Maybe we'll just then upload it. I'm not sure exactly how it happened. So if something does go down, we won't put it on the members feed, and we may not even put it on the blog. We may just go right onto the podcast feed. We'll see. I mean, it depends on how big of a deal it is and exactly how intoxicated I am because I'm at my in-laws. Those factors will be, you must take into consideration. But speaking of traveling, do you have New Year's plans? I don't. I'm landlocked, though, because of my kids. But for a lot of people, they actually want to go and do something fun for New Year's, right? Jamie's nodding her head. She's going to do something fun. Matt's just, as long as it doesn't take any effort, and then it's fun.
I'm there.
Soy boy over there.
Granola boy.
Can I just say, I just found this out, that Matt has been in a Twitter war with the Minneapolis 5th District Republican... Third District Republican Twitter feed?
They call me a soy boy.
I don't know what that's about. But
them's fighting words.
Look, whether you're looking for a cabin to get away on New Year's Eve or you're planning your next beach vacation in Hawaii, or that vacation in Europe even. I'll tell you something. When my sister lived in Italy, she rented like an apartment for a week or two outside of Venice, and it was fantastic. That's the only way to go, because then you can actually you don't have to eat every meal out. You just pick and choose, and the food is great because you still it's a much better way to do this. Vacation rentals, they offer flexibility, perks, and amenities that hotels don't, like multiple bedrooms, backyards. This place that we rented, we overlooked a huge trellis of Concord grapes, and it dawned on me, why can't I do a trellis? And then I did. You get free Wi-Fi at these places, stocked kitchens. With tripping.com, one search lets you filter, compare, and sort over 10 million available properties on trusted sites like VRBO or TripAdvisor, Booking.com, and more. All of them. You don't wonder if you're getting the best deal. You'll save an average of 18% per night by booking your vacation with tripping.com. So don't forget, if you want to save time and money while booking the perfect vacation rental for your next trip, head to tripping.com/majority today. Check it out. Just go check it out. Even if you're not looking for a place, go check it out so you got it in your browser so you know it's there if you take a trip. It's tripping, tripping.com/majority. Tripping.com/majority. Now, I think the kids might say, speaking of tripping, here is Ivanka Trump, who is on Fox and Friends, who has been sent out. Now, you always wonder, now, with the total awareness that Donald Trump is watching Fox and Friends on a regular, determined basis, if she's not going on there in some way to ingratiate herself with her dad or to make her dad feel good, or this is like a stocking stuffer. She apparently was one of the big pushers of the tax deal. And also, equally as apparent, she has no idea what it is. Here she is on Fox and Friends.
It was a special day in the White House. You know what happens when you do a good job at your job? Your dad's going to be gassing up the airplane and sending you all over the country for for future legislation. Congratulations.
It is my greatest pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to doing a lot of traveling in April when people realize the effect that this has, both on the process of filling out their taxes. The vast majority will be doing so on a single postcard, but also having experienced the relief that will be starting as early as February. So then it will be a real privilege to show not only what the companies are doing, but the personal impact that it's going to have to so many people across this country.
And if that's the case.
Now, there's a couple of things. One, it's pretty clear we didn't make that postcard thing. But more importantly, the way a tax deal works is it applies to the year that's coming up. So it will apply to 2018. And the way taxes are filed, and maybe Ivanka doesn't know this, but you actually file your taxes the year following. So in other words, that postcard, if it is even if you imagine it's going to be on a postcard, that's not going to show up until April 2019. So, that's just a small detail that you file your taxes in April for the year prior. Maybe she didn't pick up on that, but I'm quite sure the jet's going to be fired up and fueled up, and she's going to be flying around anyways.
Yeah. Everyone says she's the smartest Trump, and I think she probably is because that's a low bar, but she doesn't know everything, apparently.
She responded to this criticism.
Okay, and so somebody tweeted at her and said, actually, Ivanka Trump, in April 2018, people were doing their 2017 taxes based on the current law. And she goes, correct! All across America, people will be thinking about how cumbersome the old tax code is and energized about upcoming simplification.
Good save.
Yes. So she's going to fly around and see people very excited about next year's filing. And now, theoretically, I guess people, if they also are going to be looking forward to these type of things, people could also be saying, oh, I overshot 2018 and went to 2025, where all of these tax breaks that I'm supposedly getting are actually rescinded, but all the corporate ones stay intact. One of the big winners, apparently, in the tax deal, just one, is are the nation's biggest banks. Because,
It's good for them to get a W every once in a while.
The idea that you could go for more than a matter of months without the U.S. government in some way subsidizing the biggest banks in the country is just, I think, too frightening of a prospect for everyone. That's the problem. 7 of the country's biggest banks will save between $700 million and $3.7 billion next year due to corporate tax rate reduction. This is according to Goldman Sachs' calculations. Bank of America, $3.5 billion in savings. Citigroup, $1.4 billion. JP Morgan, $3.3 billion. Morgan Stanley, $833 million. Wells Fargo. You remember Wells Fargo. They're that company that would actually had like a systemic process of committing fraud against their own clients. They're only getting $3.7 billion. PNC, a measly $700 million. U.S. Bancorp, $766 million. And Goldman Sachs doesn't even include their own expected savings, though it could be up to $1.6 billion based on their revenue in 2016. Remember how he was not going to be... you remember all those speeches that Hillary gave. Wells Fargo, however, announced it's going to be raising its minimum age to $15 an hour. That's $1.50 more for people.
They're job creators.
They're job creators, yes. Now, of course, they're not getting this money for a year, so somehow they already found it. Amazing about that.
Business confidence.
Yeah, finally have a confident outlook. I just want to say, first of all, I want to say one word about a longtime listener of this program, Tony D. She was a big presence on our old blog back in the day, the old blog, the super old blog back during the radio days. I just want to thank her for her contributions. She's very ill, and hopefully she will have the opportunity to hear this and know that we all appreciate all the emails she sent over the years and the contributions she made on the blog. You made it a better place. And, we'll have time for this at the end of the program, but I just wanted to say thank you again to all of our listeners, to all of our members, for all the tremendous support that you've given this show, not just in the past couple of weeks when we were dealing with that Mike Cernovich thing, but just across the board. I am so thankful for the opportunity to be able to do this show and to have an audience that shows their appreciation for it in a myriad of ways. It makes me feel good about, doing this with my time. And I want to thank also our crew, everybody except for Michael. He's not here, so I don't have to thank him. He'll be here later. But Matt, obviously, super producer Matt Leck, thank you for everything over the past couple of years. And our great 2 new additions. It feels like you guys have been here for years now, but it's only been a couple months, right? It's only been a couple of months. But Jamie and Brendan, I get nothing but accolades for my hiring abilities. It's great. It's the best. We've set records. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Fran Lebowitz. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It is always a great pleasure and honor to welcome our next guest to the program. She is an author, a social critic, author of several books, The Metropolitan Life, Social Studies, and more. Fran Lebowitz, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Now, the last time we spoke was, if I remember correctly, I'm sure you don't remember, but for me, I got to tell you, it's a very big deal, but was back in 2011. At the time, I think it was the people were being either evacuated from, or I shouldn't say, pushed out of Zuccotti Park during the occupation, I guess, and at that time, you were not so optimistic about what was going into our society. Has that improved in any way?
Let me assure you, 2011 seems like a paradise lost to me, and I'm sure not just to me.
Indeed.
I mean, I have friends who say George Bush wasn't that bad. Now, I don't agree with them. He was horrible. And I think it's really a big mistake to let Trump be any kind of a standard. Any kind of a standard. Even to make, George Bush look good. George Bush was a really dreadful president, without whom we would not have had Donald Trump, I'd like to point out. Things are, yes, even I could not have imagined this.
It's pretty bad. And one of the things that you said to me back at that, during that interview was that as you looked back on the Bush v. Gore decision, which you found shocking, and I have to say I also found shocking, and my audience is well aware of that. But you were surprised that there was not people in the streets, and that and I wonder, we just have passed this tax deal, which is a huge giveaway to the richest amongst us. I mean, not even amongst us, right? They transcend us now because they're so wealthy. But there doesn't seem to have been much of a peep about it.
Well, the problem is the people have to be in the street in Washington. That's what I believe. They have to pour into Washington. I know there were many local protests, by which I mean, state by state, against the tax law. And it didn't apparently convince any of these people because these Republicans do not care about their constituents. And I don't mean care in some, emotional way. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter to them. Clearly, all that matters to these Republicans is the 8 families they service, period. I mean, they are literally, I watched on C-SPAN, Mitch McConnell literally racing around the Senate floor in the middle of the night, I'm certain what was the middle of the night for him, doing the bidding of these people. And I'm certain that, they call him and say, get this done or else. And the or else is, we will not finance your campaigns. Because the Republican Party is financed by these families. I get, and I'm sure you do, stuff from the Democratic Party all the time. Would you give us $25? Would you give us $10? Would you give us $100? They don't need that money. If someone's going to write them a check for $1 zillion,
right?
And so they don't care about it. It makes no difference to them. Yes, I was shocked when people didn't pour into the streets for the Supreme Court decision. And whenever I said this to people, they said, "Why didn't you go?" And I realized the mistakes that I made in regard to that was imagining that the generations below me would be like me, and that is a mistake all people make. In other words, I felt like, and what I said was, where are the kids? To me, this was like a kid job, because we did it when we were kids. Where are the kids? Why aren't they there? How about, why didn't you go, Fran? I mean, that year, what was the year? 2008?
2001.
2001.
Right.
Okay, so I was hardly a kid in 2001,
right.
But I was ambulatory. It never occurred to me to go. It didn't. I thought, well, where are they? That's their job. They didn't think it was their job. And the thing is that it isn't so much that it's a job of kids, is that no matter what this stuff is, it's more important to them.
Right.
They may not feel that it's more important to them, but it's like me, if I'm listening to the radio and I hear we're going to run out of water in 2040, first I stop, my heart stops, and then I think, 2040, you'll be dead. It doesn't matter to me what happens in 2040. I have no children. But it matters to tons of people who are younger than me.
Well, what do you think is it that, in 2011, we had, there was, while we were talking, there were people in the streets across the country and in some respects across the world. And what has happened since 2011 that brought us to the point where Donald Trump gets elected, in your mind?
Well, Donald Trump got elected in a fraudulent election. He may not, he certainly knows what he did. Do you really think Donald Trump would have gotten elected, without the help of the Russians? I do not. I really don't. Even if you factor in all of these, people who voted for him, whoever they may be, and I tell you that I really am sick of hearing, how the Democrats have to pay attention to these people. When I say these people, I mean the ones that you read about, they're quoted in the newspaper, you see them on the news, the ones who voted for him, the ones who don't care and have said, yes, I know he's lying, I don't care. Though I didn't really think, it was going to be 1952 again, which was his promise. But, what they like is, I believe that the Trump supporters are not supporters. It's a cult. It's a matter of his personality. And I really think that what they like about him is that he allows them to express their bigotry, period. That's what I think.
Now, do you think, there are voters on the margins? Trump, broadly speaking, the people who voted for Trump are also the people who, broadly speaking, voted for Mitt Romney. Now, there was a significant, Obama to Trump a group of people. But we're basically talking about Republicans with some people at the margins who may be theoretically gettable. And I don't know if those are the people that reporters go and talk to. And I don't know how they would find those, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20. I don't know what the 1 out of 100 of those Trump voters may be. But, is there... So what is the solution? I think maybe Russia had an impact. I think there's probably a half a dozen things that would have made the difference between 70,000 votes. What do we do with that?
You mean in the future?
Yeah.
Well, the number one thing is to make sure the Russians don't do this again. I think this is the most significant aspect of the campaign. I know that not everyone agrees with me. Perhaps you don't. But, this is immensely significant. So make sure they don't do it again. That would be, number 1 through 100, I think. And, of course, the real problem in this country is the Electoral College. And this has been the problem forever, really. And the Electoral College functions exactly as it was meant to. It, vastly overweights the Southern rural vote, period. The problem with this country is the Confederacy, period. That's the problem with this country. Sometimes I think to myself, oh, Abraham Lincoln, you made a mistake. You should have let them go. That's what you see, really. And you saw that in with the Bush elections. If you look at those maps that they show you on election night, these red and blue maps, if you look at the red, that's what it is, largely. This tax plan, isn't just a giveaway. A giveaway, in a way, makes it sound like there's something to give, like something extra, to give. This is not only doing the bidding of these people, this is punitive. It's right. Directed at, what the effect it has on New York City, is immense. That's deliberate. That was absolutely deliberate, to target New York City, to target California. Of course people do say, and it's true if you are able to take the long view, which I am not, in the end, these people will lose, just, demographically, and just from the point of view of, the age of the people who vote for Trump, the age of the people that are for this largely, that eventually, will happen, but I don't really feel it's going to happen fast enough.
Well, what do we do in the meantime? Yes, and I agree, the tax plan basically says to states that provide services for their citizens we're going to punish you for doing that, and we're going to force you in some ways to cut your taxes and roll back any programs or any type of services you provide for your citizens. But what do we do in the meantime? I mean, if it is the case that Russia in some way pushed Trump over the top, why was it so close? I mean, I guess I'm curious at your perspective is, if I had told you Donald Trump in 2014 was going to win the election, I would imagine you would have said, no way.
I spent the entire year before the election going around the country reassuring people, don't be ridiculous. It's out of the question. Okay, so it's the wrongest I've ever been, and I mean, beyond, up until the last second, I couldn't believe it. And that is partially, because, and maybe wholly, that people in New York knew Donald Trump for the cheap hustler he is. And it truthfully never occurred to me. It seemed not like a joke in the sense that it was amusing, but like a joke in the sense that it was out of the question. But, I have a friend who kept saying to me, you could be wrong about Donald Trump. You don't understand the country because you don't watch reality television. And I thought that was ludicrous. I had never seen that TV show. I've heard of it, of course, but I've never seen it. It never occurred to me that anyone even thought Donald Trump was rich. No one in New York thought he was rich. And when I say rich, I don't mean compared to me, I mean compared to rich people. And certainly, I'm certain we'll never find this out, but I guarantee you he is a lot richer now than he was when he took that office.
Right.
In a certain way, I believe that his entire reason for wanting to be the president was to loot the country and the world. It's like having Imelda Marcos be the president.
Well, I think we really saw that. I mean, this tax deal, I think, is it is amazing to look at a graph and see what profession, or I should say not profession, what industry is going to benefit the most from this, and it is by far real estate. Maybe just a total coincidence, but I mean, what does that say?
He's not even in the real estate business. That's my point. My point, he's in the scam business. He's like those old three-card Monte dealers that you saw in Times Square.
Yes.
The people who are the people in New York who are in the real estate business wouldn't give him the time of day. And believe me, as you know, this is not the most sterling group of people who ever lived. I mean, he's a scam artist. Mitt Romney was right about that. I mean, Mitt Romney, when he said, he's a scam artist, or however he put it, that is correct. That is absolutely correct. But it is money that got him involved with the Russians. That's why he was involved with the Russians.
Right.
It's not that I think that, I don't think he has any politics at all. I don't think politics make any difference to him. I don't even think he knows what it means. That's who would lend him money. And that's why they lent him the money. No one else would lend him money.
But
I think that's what it's about.
But what does it say about the country, though? I mean, you it caught you by surprise. Has it changed your perception of the country, or was it just a notion that they didn't understand who he was? I mean, it wasn't like he was putting on some type of veneer, or was it a function of the veneer he was putting on is that I'm super wealthy, and that basically gets you a vote?
No, I think that certain things that he does are absolutely false. His love of the military, which goes a long way with a lot of these people because many of these people serve in the military or their families do. So he adores the military, yet, as you know, he did not serve.
Right.
Okay? He did not serve because he had a heel spur. You know who else has a heel spur? Fran. You know what this is? It is nothing. It is a thing that occasionally makes it hard to walk. Okay? I guarantee you that, plenty of boys during Vietnam who had heel spurs went to Vietnam.
Right.
So he didn't. No one in his family was ever in the military. Even in World War II, Donald Trump is older than me, thank goodness, but not enough. So that my father, that generation was his father's generation. His father was a little older. They all were in the army during World War II. They all were. I think that his love of the military is completely false. I love the workers. He exploits workers. These things are patently false, and they don't seem to care. That's my point. What does it say about the country? What it says about the country is nothing has served bad politicians and horrible businessmen as much as the really deplorable condition of public schools in this country. For like the last 40 years. They know nothing. They know nothing because the schools are terrible. It's as simple as that. I mean, I went to public school. I went to an ordinary public school. Everyone I know went to, not everyone, but most people I know went to ordinary public schools. We knew more by the age of like 7 than these people know, and that's because they taught it to you in school. Not because we were a generation of geniuses. These things are teachable, but you have to teach them. I mean, that's what I think is wrong with the country, but I'm not going to pretend that I care. In other words, I do not care about people who are so reckless. I don't. They don't seem to understand at all what's happening. If Donald Trump evaporated tomorrow morning and the entire Republican Congress and all this stuff, we're generations away from fixing what's already been destroyed in this country.
And where do you think, is that just over the past year, or was it a function of just sort of a slow, I guess, I don't want to call it progression, but and I don't know if it's even a regression. I mean, just where are we in time? I mean, is this unique, or are we returning to some type of mean?
Well, the presidency of Donald Trump is certainly unique. I mean, certainly. It's not that we haven't had horrible presidents, but we've had many in my lifetime. But that is the thing that I'm most concerned about, that people, don't say things like, well, he'd be better than Donald Trump. Or, I sometimes, this is the truth, I sit in the subway and I say to myself that if I'm not getting off at that stop, when the door opens, the first person who comes through that door would be a better president than Donald Trump, and that is true if that person is in a stroller. Okay? So, he cannot be, any kind of standard. I really, I do feel, I could be wrong, and this is something I never used to say because I actually felt my profession was being right. So I do feel that, when the Democrats get back in power, which is not impossible to happen in the midterms, they will right some of these wrongs, but what they will not be able to do will be able to erase in people's memories this thing that happened. And this newfound power, of these bigots. I mean, truthfully, when Trump was running and I saw those rallies, I said to everyone, these are George Wallace rallies. So if you're not old enough to remember George Wallace, you don't remember George Wallace. But, to me, they were like Klan rallies. I truly think that the largest percentage of his appeal is racism, pure and simple. I do. That's what all that enthusiasm is. That it's almost like, seeing a crowd at a horrible sporting event. But Ronald Reagan, who everyone now adores and quotes, including Democrats, without Ronald Reagan, you would have had any of this. Right. Ronald Reagan taught the country to hate government and to not even know what government is.
He wasn't so great with people of other races either, I would say, non-white folk. Opening up his campaign around the corner from essentially where 3 civil rights workers were killed.
Yes, or George Bush Sr., I can't think of all his initials anymore, but, not the last George Bush, the previous George Bush.
Right.
Those Willie Horton ads.
Yep.
But the problem is that even people who were alive then don't remember anything. And certainly people who are younger couldn't possibly remember that. But the way that the Republicans have succeeded at all is by racism, period. The other stuff is just gravy.
And where do you place, like, when you think about someone like Clinton and welfare reform and his triangulation?
I thought it was horrible.
Right.
Look, I didn't like Bill Clinton because he was way to the right of me. Obama was to the right of me. And believe me, I am not, that left. It's just the idea, I am like a standard, New Deal liberal Democrat. It isn't that I have moved left, it's that the country has moved so far to the right, including the Democrats. I remember I was against NAFTA. I fought with all of my friends about NAFTA, and what they said to me was, "You sound like Ross Perot." And I said, Ross Perot is right about this. Globalization, there are aspects of it, is a man-made thing. It's not a weather event. Of course, if you let capital float, it's going to float. Of course, if you can pay people 15 cents an hour instead of $15 an hour, of course they're going to do that. This unfettered capitalism is the cause of this. There's no reason for this. They never expected to get this. I mean, even this tax bill, I'm sure it's more than they imagined in their wildest dreams.
I think they're flummoxed by it on some level. I really do think that they're sort of shocked. Like, wow, we got all this, and like and Anwar on the top of it. It's sort of like this weird cherry on their sundae. But
right, and people are losing their health care. I mean, people apparently he signed this morning, this bill, which, according to everything I've read, instantaneously 13 million people lose their health care. I really think it would be great if someone would get up, some politician, and say, we should stop talking about health insurance. No one wants health insurance. People want health care. Insurance is a business. No one wants car insurance. People want a car.
Right.
There's, what's now called single-payer health insurance. That is so clearly the right thing to do that it's astonishing that we don't do that.
You spoke when we spoke last time about the complete lack of class consciousness. Will you talk a little bit about that too? I mean, what is that a product of? And was there an era when there was more class consciousness in this country?
What's happened in this country is that they substituted race for class. That's not the only thing, but that's one of the things. In other words, when politicians in the last 40 years have talked about the middle class, in Western Europe, for instance, those people they were talking about were the working class. We never had a working class here. We just don't have it. We're America. We don't have a working class. We have poor people, we have middle class, and then we have, some rich people. Everyone almost in the country thinks they're middle class. And this would be true, say, of when there were factory jobs, factory workers. But in other countries, factory workers were considered working class. And the only reason that is better, is because it first of all has the word working in it, I'm sorry. And second of all, makes people like that have a consciousness that the people in control of things are not their friends. They're not their buddies. So that, the lack of unions in this country now, that is the problem. That's one of the big problems. I am not at all a young person, but I'm not 1,000 years old. And I grew up being taught absolutely never cross a picket line. And I never did. When there were picket lines, I never did. On the other hand, the people who are younger don't even know what that is.
Right.
That's very important. It's very important to know that. It's very important to understand what that means. I once got into, I wouldn't say an argument, but a disagreement with a doorman who was going to vote for Bush because he didn't like John Kerry. I don't like him, he said. I said, that doesn't matter. You don't have to like him. Don't worry, he's not going to call you. It's like people who said they don't like Hillary Clinton. I don't like her. That's all right. Don't worry. You're not going to meet her. You don't have to like these people. They're not your friends. And I said to him, you can't vote for Bush. You're in a union. And he said, what difference does that make? And I realized he did not know what difference that made. He was like a 25-year-old kid. And he did not know what difference that made. Now, that is astonishing to me.
But how do we fix that? Is that really, I understand your point about public education, and I'm not sure I'm as convinced of that, and maybe it's in isolated parts, but I think it's broader, right? Because that's not just a question of a system getting decrepit. It is that there's a willful imposition of ignorance upon people.
That's right. but that's emotional. That's what I'm saying. That is right. That is right. Why should people who are supposed to be their government hate the government? It's ridiculous. Who do they think the government is? That's my point. I always felt like I was part of the government. Not that I was governing people, but that's what a government is in a democracy.
How do you push back on that? I mean, how do you fight that type of virus?
I really think that, maybe I'm wrong to imagine that these people are in any way, would be responsive to logic or reason, especially since they don't believe anything real anymore. And that is the worst thing. The worst thing is that they don't believe things that are real. In other words, first of all, there is this, now everyone uses this term, the mainstream media, which used to be called, as you will recall, the media.
Right.
The other stuff was called lunatics. Okay? There's been like a mainstream media and it isn't like, this isn't what there used to be like the underground media, this is not the East Village other they're talking about, this is, basically factual things and made up stuff. Completely made up stuff that a lot of these people who voted for Trump, they only get this stuff. Or they just, believe what the New York Times that makes everything up. I never remember how old you are. I know you're younger than me because everyone is. It's a law. But it used to be, and believe me, I myself have been misquoted in the New York Times numerous times. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I am telling you that any kind of argument you had with someone that was, about something in the news, if you used to say, if I said it was, 200 and they said, no, it was 500, and I said, why do you think that? And they said, look, it's in the Times. That's the end of the argument. Oh, it's in the Times. It must be right. They were not always right, but they were mostly right about things like that. You trusted them to be right. The distrust of the media is really dangerous. It's really dangerous.
Is this tied in? And one of the things we had talked about in 2011 was essentially the degradation of the so-called professions, right? What was at one time a profession that was, being a doctor, being a lawyer, I think maybe on some level being a journalist as well, was considered a job that, while it may pay well, was not about commerce, and that dramatically changed in the 70s. Is this? Are we all suffering from that in terms of a questioning of these institutions because the agenda has shifted from, journalistic ethics or from professional ethics or standards or, some obligation to society in some fashion to simply a pursuit of money?
Yes, this is completely about money. There are no competing values in the culture anymore. Zero. It's only money. So, yes, I vaguely recall this conversation. I said to you that when I was young, lawyers and doctors were not allowed to advertise. It was illegal.
Yep.
It was illegal and unheard of, by the way. And there were no lawyer jokes when I was young. Lawyers were respected. They were a member of an important profession. They were not dirtied up by money, and same thing with doctors. Doctors made a lot of money, lawyers made more money, but not every doctor made more money. So it used to be called medicine, and now it's called the healthcare industry. Of course there's a difference. They didn't used to be allowed to advertise drugs on television. Yes, it's money. If you don't say certain things are better than money, not just different, but better than money, then you end up with this. It is, to me, if you ask me one word that has caused, most of these problems, it is money and the changing perception of what money is. Look, I was, raised in the most conventional kind of small-town middle-class household, and I was brought up to defer to many kinds of people. First of all older people, which is everyone if you're 7, members of every kind of clergy, teachers, nurses, doctors, lawyers, but not rich people. Not rich people. There was no idea that rich people were anything other than richer, not better, and not worthy of deference. And now, if I go into hospital, I still have that attitude toward nurses, because we were raised, and this is a very important job, being a nurse. Being a doctor is a very important job, which makes these people more important than people who make money. Yes, if you're asking me how this can be fixed, I don't know. If you're asking me if I could fix it, I think there are certain things I could fix. I do. But no one listens to me. When I say listens to me, I don't mean people actually, I hope people are listening to me now, but I mean, I can never get people to do anything that I say, in any way. And so that, like lots of times, I used to say I'd like to be the mayor of New York, which I still would like to be. And whenever people say, well, you should run, and I always no matter where I am, I could be at a party just with just my friends, and I always say, and I believe this to be true, I couldn't win this room.
All right. Well, aside from becoming mayor, what would be the path to, and on some level, I think, relative to 2011, from my perspective, and granted, I may have some myopia just because of what I do every day, but that younger people have other values that seem to be rising and competing with money, in a large part because money's just not as available to the younger generation. That the opportunities that I had as, a near baby boomer or late Gen Xer were much greater from a financial standpoint than someone in their 20s today. And because of that, because it's just not an option, that other things rise in value. Is that your sense? Do you have a sense of that? Do you think?
Well, I do absolutely, think that in every respect, the people who are in their 20s now are vastly better than the generation that followed me. In other words, when I was, I can't think, when I was, say 40, and the first new real generation started coming along, I was saying these people are horrible.
That's my generation, I think.
That's your generation. So basically, people who are now around 50 or in their late 40s, to me, this is the worst cultural generation. Like I've always said, they write the worst books, they make the worst movies, they make the worst music, and of course, like all people, I imagine the world being finite. In other words, here's the younger generation, and that's it, it's going to stop. So I didn't think about the people who would come along after that. And absolutely, the people who are in their 20s now, to me, in every respect, are a zillion times better. In every respect. Culturally they're better. Every single thing is better about them. What is worse about them, is not about them, but truthfully, they have really, I would not say a brilliant future ahead of them unless they make it. Because what is left to them is horrible. And it's mostly by their parents. This is what shocks me. I have no children. So, I'm shocked how their parents took everything. This present, all this sexual abuse and scandal stuff, the upside of it is there was no other way to get rid of these people. They were not, a lot of these people in other eras would not still have been in power. They would have been just too old. So, one thing it does is free up a lot of really great jobs.
I will say, in defense of my generation, I feel like we gave the opportunity for the generation after us to shine because we were so horrible.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. But I would also say that a lot of those people were the children of people my age or a little older. So, I always used to say, well, it must be our fault, meaning people my age. Of course, it has to be our fault. We were in power, and truthfully, for too long.
I'm not convinced, over the past couple of years, maybe, I think it has been, that I have become increasingly convinced, I should say, that the size of these generations, the size of your generation as baby boomers, the size of my generation as being smaller and and really no room for us because of just the sheer numbers and the control that your generation had, and in our sort of consumer culture that grew up out of the post-war era, that became dictated. Like the buying power of your generation squeezed out everything for our generation. And because ours was smaller and ours is sort of skipped in terms of having that control over our culture, that the people in their 20s now are going to have more opportunities to define what our society is like. And I'm becoming more convinced that it's just a function of the size of these generations.
Well, that may be part of it. I mean, there's also such a thing as, an endless, kind of gluttony. I mean, there's nothing is enough. Nothing, not only did apparently, we, take all the drugs and all the jobs, and, we also apparently drank all the water, which is why I can never understand what happened to the water. Why is there going to be no water? We drank it. Part of it is, and it is not, by the way, that people my age were raised with the kind of, I don't know what the word is, freedom that younger people were. Not at all. I mean, we have millions of rules and all that kind of, I mean, not at all. I don't think it's that. Yes, the size of it, I agree that certainly is a factor. I am heartened by the people who are in their 20s. And I have no particular interest in young people, the way that other people do. Like, what do you think they like? I don't care what they like. I mean, it's not that I care about it in that way. I'm not in marketing, It's just that they are better. I can see that they are better, but they have to do some things that are old-fashioned, by which I mean there is really, I don't care what Donald Trump says, I don't care what these Republicans said, 1 million people, marching into Washington has an effect. It has an effect. It does. It's, I suppose, good to go to your congressman's office and all that kind of stuff. It's certainly easier. And also, on the other hand, it's also cheaper not to have to go to, to Washington unless you live there, but it would have an effect. I absolutely believe if, 500,000 people had poured into the streets in Washington, when Bush v. Gore was decided, it would have had an effect. If anyone else, but me apparently would have said, what do you mean one person is choosing the President of the United States? Because it was one person.
Right.
One person. 70,000 votes or however many votes it was, that Donald Trump won. It's absurd. We're hostage, to these minute minorities.
And I want to just get back to this sort of these changes in I guess that represented by the baby boom. Was it just rank consumerism? Was it just sort of what people refer to as neoliberalism now? This notion of the market uber alles. What was it? Just sheer gluttony? I mean, what accounted for it?
I don't know, because truthfully, I was not like that. I mean, I never made that transition, to that, but certainly a lot of my friends did, and certainly most of the people my age did. I don't know why they did that, because people are bad. I don't know what else to say. Human nature has to be contained. We can see that. If human nature was perfect, it would be called human art. Human nature is bad. You have to contain it. You can't let people just be their appetites. And certainly, we live in an era of appetite and have for quite a long time. People, I don't know why that happened. But when it started happening, I didn't really analyze it. It's not really possible to see the future. No, I mean, I suppose some people did think Donald Trump was going to be the president. Some people don't notice the warning signs. Some people, look, the fact of Sarah Palin has had a huge effect.
Right.
A huge effect. Once you have one person like this, then it becomes not really the norm, but at least a possibility. This is why I have to tell you something, that when John McCain voted against the the health care bill or whatever it was called, the lack of health care bill, I was glad he did it, but I have zero respect for John McCain. Zero.
You're not alone in that. You're not alone.
He took Sarah Palin, and the hope that people are always putting in John McCain. When? When are you going to do something? So the fact that he took Sarah Palin, The fact that, 4 people, found Sarah Palin, somewhere in Alaska, and said, this is a great idea. Let's have a completely ignorant person, be the Vice President of the United States. People have to understand, it's what Trump does, and it's what you were saying in a way about professionalism. You have to know things to do your job, no matter what your job is. You have to know things. And certainly to be the President of the United States, you have to know a lot of things. That is one of the reasons that, Hillary Clinton, who I know no one liked, would have been a fantastic president because of her knowledge, period. You don't like her. I know that. No one liked her, But, she had a lot of knowledge, more probably than any president.
Right. I think her resume, I didn't particularly appreciate
like
her politics, but her resume, I think was undoubtedly made her the most prepared person in terms of what she had experienced in the close proximity to the presidency, in terms of being aware of what the job entailed. I think it's...
some of the stuff Trump does, like when he taunts the president of North Korea, he taunts him. Try us was one of his tweets. And when I saw that, I said, no, don't try us. Try us. I guarantee you, he doesn't know where North Korea is. He has no idea who this guy is. Everyone thinks Donald Trump is crazy. I didn't used to think he was crazy, and now I think he's also crazy. I think the salient feature of Donald Trump is how stupid he is. I really do. He's really dumb. He is really dumber than George Bush, which I thought was an impossibility, for the president.
He's impressively stupid. All right, well, let me ask you this as a last question, because when I first had the opportunity to interview you back on Air America, when Janine Garofalo and I had a show, you were working on a book called Progress. And in the subsequent years, when we interviewed you, we had asked you what was happening with that book, if there was any progress. Where are we on that timeline? Has your perspective on progress changed based upon where we are today as opposed to 15 years ago?
Well, like everything else, it's worse. The reason I was writing that book was because I thought people had stopped talking about progress. The idea, even the word, had been, vilified, especially in academic life, and that was a bad thing, that had happened, because even though, of course, progress is always incredibly, unequal in its distribution, and even though, yes, in many ways you can associate with colonialism and all this kind of stuff, there's a different way to look at it, because now that we see what true regress is, this is not only a reactionary era, this is way beyond that. We see that I was right. My preferred position.
Fran Lebowitz, that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
You're welcome.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will be talking to Cliff Schecter about not only the week in news, but also the year in news and the year to come in political news. We'll be right back after this.
Follow my lights, follow my lead. Never listen to me, never listen to me. Fall by my side, I only mean to tell you everything. Love me all of my life, never listen to me.
We are back. Sam Cedar on the Majority Report. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, one of the traditions, you move from 2017, you move to 2018, time marches on, but there's a thing called tradition, ladies and gentlemen. Tradition. Yes, and here is one of our Friday traditions.
Cliff Schecter, Libertas LLC. New media, public relations, and strategy. You want any of these services, you know who you gotta see. Cliff Schecter, Libertas LLC.
Hello, Cliff Schecter. How are you?
I'm doing well, Sam. Who knew you were such a traditionalist?
Yes, there you go. We can put his high end back up. Cliff, so it is the final show of 2017, the final live show, I should say. And
wow.
Yes, and
what a year of Trump. Do you have the list somewhere of all the wonderful things he said this year?
I don't have the list of all the things he said, but I do have a really, really disturbing list of all the things that he and his administration has done. And
that's a pretty good list too.
You know, I think it's really actually horrible. Much of it, I think, you know, is stuff that theoretically we could reverse. But let's talk about this tax cut. I mean, this theoretically...
You mean tax bill that won't cut?
Well,
yeah.
I mean, give me your assessment of it, because there are tax cuts for people in the, there are tax cuts theoretically for most Americans, but a vast majority of those people will see their tax cuts end within anywhere like 5 to 6 years. And they'll remain for corporations and for big earners. You know, 1% or 83% of the actual dollar benefits go to 1% of the population. But give me your assessment of how this is going to work, because one thing I've heard, and I think David Dayen brought this up earlier in the week, that people will see a little bit more in their paycheck. They won't know that it's clawed back until, they actually pay their taxes, which, of course, won't happen until 2019. This is going to make people feel better, and they'll vote for Donald Trump, or I should say the Republicans. Do you buy that?
Not really. I think there'll be people that are sort of predisposed to like Trump already, and they'll be like, hey, look, and maybe they're leaning Trump. But you're right. There are tax cuts provided for a lot of, probably for most people for the first at least year or two out. But that's not balanced against all the other, the things that are going to hurt a lot of people in a lot of places. And so, just a classic example, obviously, and the limited ability to, the high state and local taxes in places like New York and California, where they're going to be hurting sort of suburban voters by getting rid of these write-offs. There are people who have homes that, for a lot of people, sound like they're kind of upper middle class to upper class, but they're not in these places. You know what I mean? Because housing is so expensive, and so these are people, when it comes to either property taxes, which is a part of this equation, that is being limited. These are people that are paying state and local taxes. They're going to look at that, and so they're going to get hit from a number of areas. And in the end, their taxes, for a lot of them, are probably going to go up. This thing targets blue states, which is fine if you're Donald Trump and, from a political perspective, and you don't need to win those states. But there's like 14 Republican members of Congress, at least 12 of whom are potentially vulnerable in California. There's a whole bunch in New Jersey and in New York. There are some in Illinois, and I know we can go over this later, because we were going to talk about some of the polling, the public policy polling.
Right.
But right now, the numbers are showing these people, a lot of them are screwed. Times change. It's early. We've got a year to go. God help us, we could be at war with North Korea. We could have all sorts of things can happen that change narratives. It's sort of like somebody tells you a check is coming until it's actually in the bank. It's not in the bank. But I would say if you look at those numbers right now, you see this in articles written in Politico, New York Times. Republicans insiders are scared, and they're even talking about the 50-50 chance of losing the Senate, which nobody even thought would be a discussion at this point in time. But between Nevada and Arizona, and now Phil Bredesen, the former governor of Tennessee, is actually jumped into that open where Bob Corker is retiring, jumped into that race and is up against Marsha Black by about 5-6 points right now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there which has happened in Alabama to scare them. So, I don't think this is going to redound to their benefit among people that might be undecided. It might keep, there's the tribalists that will be with them no matter what they do. And then there's some other people that, especially the very, very wealthy, that I think will be there because they'll benefit hugely in the income taxes, corporate taxes. But I think a lot of middle and upper middle class people that live in suburbs of major cities on the coasts in Illinois, some other places, are going to get screwed. And I don't think that's going to work out to their benefit, Republican benefit.
I mean, there's a lot of arguments, and I guess it's going to be interesting to see if people even notice. I mean, there's data that suggests that when Obama had a tax cut, even when George Bush sent us all those checks. You remember that check that we got?
Yep.
I can't remember what it was for, like,
from George W. Bush, just to you personally.
$230 or $320. I can't remember how much it was, but he sent literally a check to everybody. It was a stimulus, and maybe it was in 2003. I feel like
it was something like that. Yeah, he was preparing for re-election, I believe.
There's data that suggests that even in that instance, people weren't too moved by it. But particularly when you get, $10, $20, $30 more in your paycheck a month, you may not notice it in a dramatic fashion. I mean, it cuts both ways. But I also wonder if even if people did notice, if it would make a difference. I mean, in other words, that if, there is what seems to be driving the votes against Republicans right now seems to be divorced from
the economy,
from the economy, and in
unemployment's low, the stock market's doing well, and I know that disproportionately affects people that are upper middle class, but there still are a lot of middle class people who have 501ks and 401ks and other things in the market, and so it's also about consumer confidence, which is high. I mean, it is divorced from that because it's daily tirades from this guy on Twitter, which end up becoming news stories, which people don't find to be below the level of what a president should be. There's all the Russia stuff floating around out there. There's the party going. I mean, so the Politico article, just to make this specific, we talked about the memo that was given to Donald Trump about 2 weeks before Roy Moore's, the Roy Moore, Doug Jones election. Was the Republican Party among women is cratering. We're losing Republican women in the suburbs. We're losing independent women. It was given to him as a sort of do not endorse Roy Moore.
Right.
Because women aren't going to like it when you're saying to them it's okay to molest their 14-year-old teenager. And, of course, Donald Trump, being the genius he is, went ahead and did that and endorsed Roy Moore fully. And so people are sitting here seeing, now the Roy Moore stuff, it will be gone at some point. People will maybe start to forget. But there's always new things like that with this guy. So even if the economic stuff is doing well, it's one thing to the next. Oh, he's, picking a fight with North Korea. We may go to nuclear war. Most people aren't excited about that prospect. Or it's, he's saying it's okay to have molested kids as long as it's a Republican. Well, a lot of people that aren't sort of tribalist Republicans who've sort of been Republicans by birth and are kind of center-right Republicans who've probably stuck with the party at least on some level, that's not a reasonable argument, as we saw, because Doug Jones was able to win in Alabama. So I think all that stuff adds up, and I think will continue to because they can't control this guy. They can't seem to keep him off Twitter. They can't seem to keep him from saying stupid things and picking fights. And his party is all too happy to join in some of the worst legislation. The last thing I'd say quickly is we don't know because they chose to, of course, not have this thing scored. They're hiding, essentially. Like they literally were hiding in corners from the CBO and others because they knew it was going to tell us this thing was going to blow up. deficit and what it was going to do, which they've said is a terrible thing for years now. And so Paul Ryan himself is like, well, we'll see. We don't really know what this thing is going to do. I mean, that's not a campaign commercial. I don't know what the hell it is. They don't know they have no idea what the damn thing's going to do. I'll just throw out one or two things. Getting rid of the Band-Aid for healthcare pretty obviously is going to raise the price of healthcare. So if you're somebody and you're just basing it on your personal situation, and next year, if you don't get it through your employer or whatever, if your healthcare is more expensive suddenly, if suddenly you're not getting to write off certain things you got to write off for. If you're a teacher, you're not getting to write off supplies. There's a whole lot of people that are going to see some expenses they probably didn't expect. And my guess is, that usually, even if you can't directly tie that to Trump, you tend to blame the people in power for stuff like that.
Right.
But, we'll see.
Well, it's interesting because we're already, I think, starting to hear we're going to have problems with the deficit, and we're spending too much. This is after giving basically billionaires $1.5 trillion worth of tax cuts. But
Peterson's back, baby.
Yeah, of course.
Now we got to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid because it's not like there's ever a revenue side to the equation.
To his credit, Chuck Schumer is not using the deficit as the sort of the lead punch here. The message let me read a little bit of what he sent out.
Wow, they may have learned some stuff, Sam.
Well, it's possible. I mean, he said, today's passage of the partisan tax bill officially cements the Republican Party as the party of the wealthy and the party of big corporations against the middle class and the working people of this country. Why? President Trump, his rich fans, cabinet members, donors, and the biggest corporations make out like bandits, while the middle class gets crumbs and tax hikes. Corporations get permanent tax breaks. Individual tax breaks expire. And then he goes on to cite the 83% of the benefits go to the top 1%. And you see stuff like, and it's interesting to watch all these corporations sort of like getting into the swing of things. It's almost as if they're behaving just like Mike Pence and Ben Carson at the cabinet meeting. We're gonna raise. We're gonna give $1,000 bonus to everybody in AT&T. Meanwhile, we're going to make
how much of that?
Billions of dollars worth of stock buybacks, which are going to push up their own salaries.
That is the key. Is that the stock buybacks are going to, because who do they answer to these days? They answer to shareholders. The culture, corporate culture, no longer takes into account workers in the community or whatever. It's all about shareholders. And if you make shareholders happy, they come to meetings and say nice things about you. You're a CEO. You get to stay on for longer. And guess what? You're loaded with stock options, which is a lot of your compensation. Right. The value goes up. You win.
Yeah, you don't have to do the bank shot. It's not, when we say shareholders, people should understand the shareholders is a byproduct of the shareholders who sit in the C-suites and the board of directors who are actually, that's the way they make their money. That's like the
right. And people don't realize that
it's a side bet. It's as if if I did this show just to get Mike Cernovich to go after me, and I made all my money on raising money about Mike Cernovich.
You did it though. That huge GoFundMe. Aren't you going on like a big Disney vacation and out to Hawaii and shit with that?
Actually, I'm glad you reminded me of that because I wanted to make an announcement about where that money's going, but we'll do that afterwards. But
can you make an announcement while I'm on so I get to hear too?
Well, I can tell you now that a big chunk of it was going to Puerto Rico relief, Hurricane Maria.
Good for you, man.
We have made a significant contribution to a couple of immigrant rights organizations, including one in the Northwest.
Oh wow!
So
good for you, man.
And
because I just pulled that out of my where I didn't even know if that GoFundMe existed anymore. I just had
no. Well, we shut it down as soon as MSNBC shifted, but we and a chunk of that money is also going to a film that is in production as we speak. That is going to explain exactly the quality of a source that Mike Cernovich is.
Oh, that is so awesome. Good for you. Seriously, that's all great stuff.
Yes, we may actually start the Center for Source Integrity. I think we were talking about that it's fully funded. We have one project, that is to put out a documentary about Mike Cernovich. But
all right, I look forward to that. But I mean, the point you were making is exactly right, which is, but again, shareholders, these days, when you're making the kind of money some of these CEOs are, a lot of it's in options. They own lots of shares. They don't even, what their salary is a pittance of what they make. So yes, it totally hooks them up. But again, it also makes everybody around them happy with their quote unquote leadership.
Right.
So it's a great deal all around. And people sort of forget that, this stuff, Nick, I've done work with Nick Hanauer. I think you've probably had him on the show before. And he's talked a lot about this, which is, stock buybacks were considered illegal manipulation pre-1982. That was another gift from the Reagan administration, which was saying, no, that's not manipulation. That's totally cool. So, I mean, that is those are folks who are going to benefit a lot from this. But again, there are a lot of people, and I mean, I'm kind of interested to see this, how they react to this. I mean, people are pointing out sort of folks that normally do well on these kinds of things, but we're talking about people who are sort of in the $200,000 to $400,000 range or whatever, who happen to live like in suburbs of the East Coast. They're losing a lot of their deductions, and their marginal rate is going to go from 33 to 35%. And I mean, these are the kinds of sort of doctors, accountants, attorneys who are used to doing well. I think they'll notice. Maybe I'm wrong.
They might.
They'll notice.
And I don't know if they'll end up just going to LLCs. I mean, who knows? At the end of the day,
right.
Look, the bottom line is, the thing that I think is really clear to me after we see what happened in Alabama and what we saw in Virginia is it is a question of whether or not you can mobilize voters who don't come out in off-year elections, but do come out in presidential elections, and get them to come out and vote.
Right.
And that's basically that's it. That's the end of the story. I mean, that it's not a question of people defecting as much as it is people staying at home who came out with a lot more enthusiasm last time. I mean, we are now in an era, and it seems to me, there was a poll that from Pew about the headline is this: far more Americans say there are strong conflicts between partisans than between other groups in society. So in other words, and the change has been that
it's true
that Democrats,
you don't decide who to marry by race or whatever. You decide who to marry by what political party they're in. Now.
But that Democrats,
there's a lot of studies.
Yes, and that Democrats are much more likely than Republicans to see strong conflicts between rich, poor, and blacks and whites. They are seeing more that Democrats are starting to see more ongoing conflict, and that is a change that I think augurs well for an energized voting bloc. Because if you see conflict is being waged, that means that you are engaging and you feel that you have more obligation to get involved in that conflict, right? And,
that is right.
And this is a change. And I think it is indicative of what, like in 2012, okay, among Democrats and lean Democrats, 50% said that there are who saw strong. It was 50% saw strong, 50% saw very strong. You now have 66% of Democrats who see very strong conflict between Democrats and Republicans. And that is the difference. That is what we're seeing that in Democratic leadership. We're seeing that in terms of voter turnout. That's the big difference. That on the broadly speaking left, more people are energized and see a fight that is going on that they didn't see 4 years ago.
Well, it's easy to forget because, the Alabama election, let's take that for a second, the perfect one, right? It's easy to forget the kinds of the insane things that went on there, insane in the way of what is so not usual, not, because people just want to write off, like, oh, well, he's a child molester. What people forget about that whole thing is, first of all, Doug Jones was only down about 10 to 12 points from when the polls started being taken there. And that was before the child molester stuff came out, right? That was, and Roy Moore, I would argue, represents, sadly, the Alabama right pretty well. on his sort of never shutting up about the Ten Commandments and what he said about Muslims and gays. And I mean, sadly, I don't think that's really far off from where the Alabama right is. And so before the child molestation stuff, Hillary lost there by 20.5 points. That's pretty normal. It was one of Trump's biggest states. You already have 18 points or so disappearing from the Republican lead there. All right, when in that polling, and then the molestation charges got it to be a almost even race, and what happened happened. Right. The second thing that people forget is, and I know I'm close on this number. If I don't hit it exactly correct, I apologize. But I think the number, as I remember seeing, was that the African American turnout in that election was 78% of what it was in 2016. I don't know if people get how insane that is. In an off-year election, not just an off-year election, not just 2018.
Right, special election.
But in 2000...
I feel like that number was 98%. I thought that number was 98%, but maybe it was...
No, it was 90... The 98 number was, which was also amazing, was African-American women voted for Doug Jones over Roy Moore 98-2, which is incredible in and of itself. But I think it was 78 was the number. But when you're getting more than 3/4 turnout for a special election in an off year, that's not even in November, but some weird time in December, that's not even an even year, but it's an odd year, that is just crazy. That enthusiasm level is, a lot of people would have told you was absolutely impossible. Like, they would just literally been like, that is like thinking that you can go from here to the moon in 5 minutes. I mean, it's that crazy. So, I mean, enthusiasm levels, let's see. But, if you take that election, if you take what happened in Northern Virginia and parts of Jersey and all of that, the enthusiasm, at least at the moment, a lot of it's anti-Trump enthusiasm. And some of these races, thankfully, they're great, Democratic candidates running. That's obviously going to play a huge role in many of these races. It's, who the candidate is always very important. But, the people are enthusiastic because it's like you can't stop being beaten over the head. The fact that Trump refuses to ever not be in the limelight, no matter what it is, means that even people who I think are more low information are just constantly hearing about this guy who is often attacking their beliefs in vicious ways, just day after day after day. I think it motivates people in a way that nothing else could.
All right, and I think that's why people are talking about the potential for the Senate. And from my perspective, the Senate is the most important thing. I mean, because and I think this has been my understanding, and I saw Chris Hayes tweeted out something to this effect over the past 24 hours that there is a precedent now for, and I should say this, Anthony Kennedy, He and I sort of teased this at the top. This is some good news. I mean, I wouldn't say it's good news. It's an absence of bad.
I know.
It's an absence
of
bad.
I saw Chris Hayes' tweet, so I know where you're headed with this too.
Well, Anthony Kennedy
for democracy. But
Anthony Kennedy has fired a full complement of 4 law clerks for the 2018-2019 term. If you're going to retire, you would only hire one. Now, Kennedy last year hired one, I think in anticipation maybe of retiring under Clinton. But he has hired 4 this time. And so I guess it was hired a single clerk last summer. And so this is at least an indication that he's not going to retire this year. If the Democrats get into office in 2018, or I should say, get elected in November and take office in January 2019, they are now within the sort of Merrick Garland precedent. The president is in his final year and a half, and you would never hold a nomination for a Supreme Court at that time. And, that's the type of I mean, for me, that's the end all be all. So
no, it is. And that's why the Senate, you're right, is more important than the House. And I mean, again, there's the PPP polls we'll talk about. They went over 36 races, and the Republicans are looking terrible in those races.
So here's
the House.
Talk about
but
that.
The Senate even.
let's talk about that because.
Well, let's say the Senate quickly because I brought up Phil Bredesen. I mean, that's a seat in Tennessee that you would just never ever expect, and I think I still wouldn't bet on it, but he's up at this point in the most recent polls. He is the last Democrat elected for 2 terms there in a row statewide. So here you've got Tennessee suddenly becoming a place where you can win a seat, in addition to having already won one in Alabama. So because people forget you're now only down 2 votes. You only need 2, and you're looking now at Tennessee, Arizona, and Nevada potentially. You can even then afford to lose a West Virginia or a North Dakota or something of that nature, and that's pretty important because you've got these races in these places where it's very tough for Democrats to win. But again, the dark horse one I keep bringing up too, and I keep telling people, maybe I'll be proven crazy again, as often happens, is the one in Texas with Beto O'Rourke, who is an absolutely phenomenal candidate who knocked off a blue dog in a primary to win a House seat, raised a lot of money, charismatic, works his butt off, and in a state that's trending Democratic against Ted Cruz. And I think that's a sleeper race that could be really interesting. So in addition to the fact that, not that I'm hoping for this, but you could end up having 2 elections in Arizona, and you could end up having, from what I've heard about Thad Cochran, you could end up having 2 in Mississippi, which they'd have to defend. So there's all that going on. So I think the Senate's very doable. But the House races, some of the stuff, which I'll go into, is just insane. You're looking at public policy polls. One of my favorite ones is, California. There's a whole bunch where Republicans are in trouble. One of my favorite ones is Dana Rohrabacher, who you may know as the Republican from Vladivostok.
This is the guy that they said in Paul Ryan joked and then said, I'm joking, of course, but nobody should talk about this, that recording where they said there's 2 people on the payroll of Russia, Rohrabacher and Trump.
Right. So, he won 58-42. And obviously there's a Russia part of this, too. This isn't just, but if you think of Russia, taxes, all the other stuff. So he's up 58-42. He trails a generic Democrat 51-41. Do the math on that. That's a 26-point turnaround.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. John Tatko, who's I can't remember, he's upstate New York. You may know better than me, Sam. I don't know, but I feel like he's suburbs of one of the upstate cities. I don't know if it's Buffalo or Syracuse,
I think it's
or whatever.
Buffalo.
He won 61-39. Okay, 22-point win now trails generic Democrat 45-43. So I'm not saying he's definitely going to lose, but the fact that he won 61-39 and this is now he's losing within the margin of error, that's kind of incredible.
The interesting thing, and I know John from San Antonio has said this, and maybe Mike from PA as well, that because of the nature of the gerrymandering, right, there is basically a critical mass. So when they gerrymander, they put all the Democrats into one district, and they make that district a 90-10 partisan split. And out of that, they make 2 other districts that may be a 55-45 partisan split, Republicans to Democrats. If you get a generic sort of a wave of Democrats where they're picking up anywhere from 10 to 12 or 15 points, you're going to take out a mass of Republicans that could be anywhere from 40 to 70.
Right. So the average of, just to answer that, the average, because I read the numbers on this and read these 36 polls in all these House districts. Again, a lot of them are in places where, and this was taken before the tax vote, people realize it in a lot of places like New Jersey, New York, California, where people are going to get screwed. A lot of people that would be Republicans potentially. The average drop-off in all of these polls together for Republicans is 19 points.
Wow.
Dude, that would be a bloodbath. That would be the kind of, that 60 votes would be, Democrats picking up 60 votes would actually be a conservative estimate if this were to remain again. You might be looking 80, 90, you might look at 100. Again, this is early, we don't know, and you're seeing it everywhere. You're looking at, some of these guys, John Culberson in Texas won 56-44. He's trailing 49-39. That's a 22-point turnaround. And then you're seeing some, like I read you the Rohrabacher one, Darrell Issa, who won by less than a point, down 51-41. you've got a good more than a half dozen of these races. The Democrat, a generic Democrat, and a few of them it's a named Democrat who's already in the race, is already over 50. So at that point, all you have to do is not lose any more support. You've actually already got the support to win. That's what we always look at. I've worked in polling in the past, and you're always looking at how close, it's not just how much you up or down by, but how close are you to 50? And I would tell you that in probably dozen and a half of these races, we're talking about people that are at 48 or above on the Democratic side. So, it really is pretty incredible. And again, early, nothing's happened. Democrats can find ways to screw anything up, as we all know. There can be acts of nature, there can be wars, there can be this and that and the other thing. But I would say that you would much rather be the Democrat in any of these places right now. And this is only 36 districts. So I think they did at some other point an additional, I don't remember, 10 or 15, which showed close races or Democrats winning by a point or two or in the margin of error. There are legitimately, at this point, 60 real opportunities. And that's not including some of the crazier ones that you'd never expect, where it's like a +8 Republican district and they could still lose. So, that's where we are.
It's going to be interesting to see how that holds up and what influences it, I guess, in 2018. And all right, well, Cliffy, that's going to be really the fundamental question. I don't know if there's going to be an opportunity for Republicans to push any other big legislation. They're going to try and cut stuff, and we're going to see executive orders from the administration that are going to be relentless. They're going to let the USDA, give waivers to states so they can drug test, and they can make work requirements for food stamps. So red states in particular, people are going to suffer more there. We're seeing the Department of Labor is talking about literally allowing restaurateur owners to take the tips of their workers, ostensibly to split them with the people in the back. They are 1/4 of the way to stripping down the EPA. They wanted to cut 3,200 people from there. 700 have left over the course of this year because they have been so demoralized about what's going on. And of course, the flip side of that is not only are they relaxing regulations for polluters, they're basically saying we're pulling the cops off the beat. And so that's more.
But again, and I've seen this, when I did a lot of the work on the gun issue with the ATF, which is we won't let them do their job. When you do that to a government organization, EPA, any of them, then it's as good when you start defunding them, demoralizing them, threatening them, all these sorts of things. It's almost it serves its purpose.
Oh yeah,
because you get people who are kind of like what they did to the CDC. With here's what you can't say, that serves its purpose. It scares people inside who are afraid of losing their jobs from going against any of this stuff. And so, you're going to see a lot worse. And one other thing I will say, though, that I don't think you hit on, that I read, and maybe it's just, him opening his big mouth because he's excited. We do know, right, that Paul Ryan's been dreaming of this stuff. As I think I was saying something the other day, he's been dreaming of this tax bill since he used to, lie around late at night in bed, touching himself to Fountainhead in college.
There you go. That's right. Well,
it's been a long time coming for him.
Right.
No pun intended, of course. Yeah, gross. Sorry.
Yeah. Boom.
Hey, Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will say with, Ryan did come out and say that next was welfare reform.
Yes.
I don't really know what that means. Does that mean all this stuff you've been saying?
I think there's going to be an attempt to roll back more Medicaid, I should say. I think there's going to be an attempt to codify. What they'll do is they'll push it as legislation, and then you'll see administrative actions. All of this stuff hopefully will be. You can't obviously roll it back while Donald Trump is president because he won't sign off on this. But you can obstruct, and you can hopefully begin to agitate. So there's going to be, frankly, I don't know that Democrats need to come out and say anything of substance in 2018. I hope that they would, because I want them at least boxed in by their own rhetoric for stuff that they need to do and create expectations. But I think there is, there may be just simply other forces at work here. It's not like
there are. But what you said about Schumer, though, is important, Sam, because again,
you don't want them to box themselves in the other way, too. I mean, you don't want them to.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, it's important.
But I want them to offer people a positive vision of what a better economic future with all of us in it together can look like. And, it reminds me in a way, for a while during 2006, the Rahm Emanuel advice back then, don't say anything about Iraq, don't say anything about Iraq. And then the Ned Lamont thing kind of took off, and a lot of Democrats started running against Iraq, and look what happened. I mean, I would hope that, yes, they don't have to say anything of substance, but I'd like them to offer a positive vision, of they offered a future of us not being in Iraq, which sadly I think we will always be in some way, but at least, and I would hope they do that on the economic and corruption and other fronts here, which is we can fight to get the money out of politics, because if anyone doesn't believe how corrupting that is, look at this tax bill. We can fight to change some of these things, and we need to offer that positive vision.
I agree.
I always think we do. So,
Cliff,
take that for what it's worth, and that and a token won't get you on the subway anymore in New York.
We all use a card anyways now. We all use MetroCard.
Yeah.
Cliff, have a great New Year. Merry Christmas, if you folks
You
are
too.
celebrating. And
I've got a lovely lapsed Presbyterian wife, so we do the Christmas thing just like we do the Hanukkah thing here. We're about everything.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
I appreciate that.
See you in 2018.
You too. And yes, Happy New Year to you, Michael, everybody there, everybody listening. Thanks, and look forward to talking to you all next year.
Happy New Year, Cliffy.
Okay. See you, Cliff.
You too, buddy. Bye.
All right, folks. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, this is so packed. This show is so packed to the gills. Man, what a way to go out.
I gotta go do another hit
2017.
with Alona. Take care.
When we come back, we'll be talking to Isabel Gillies and Matthew Film Guy, assuming I can figure out how to get both of them on the new Skype interface. All right, we'll be back in just a second. We are back. Sam Cedar on the Majority Report. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to do two. Should we play them simultaneously? Can we do that? All right, well, let's do it. Let's do this. We got two different theme songs that have to go, but I don't want to, because Isabel's like literally on the move. She's moving her entire family. It's like
you can end the segment with mine if you want.
Oh, okay. We'll start with Isabel's, and then we'll end with Matthew's. So let's begin.
Is Casual Friday. A
get off the phone. I don't want to see you on your phone.
Isabel Gillies to the show. She's going to recommend a movie or two to watch on Netflix. It's the only way I know. Listen to the picks from Isabel. IsabelGillies.com.
Yes, it's IsabelGillies.com.
Yay!
And Matthew Film Guy. Matthew?
Hi, everybody.
We are here, of course, for our I think this is pretty close to annual as things get around here, our year-end film extravaganza 2017 edition. And boy, oh boy, do we need it more than ever. Let's just start with you, Isabel. Where are you? What are you doing for the holidays? You're going to Europe, European vacation.
We're going to the great land of Italy.
Ah, well, of course.
Oh, wow.
Our whole family, the whole fam is right now in a company move. People are going downstairs in the elevator and trying to find their phones and remember their Rubik's cubes and the passports. That's my job.
Wow, this is exciting. And
so,
how long are you going for? Like a week?
As we speak. The week, yeah.
Oh, wow, nice.
It's going to be good times. All the kids are deep in study of Europe and European history and the Renaissance and every single one of them. So it's just going to be you're going to go crazy. They're going to be like, oh my God, there it is, the Colosseum,
That's pretty awesome.
And it's cheaper because it's in the winter.
Of course. Yes, summer is the expensive time, I think, to go over there. And Matthew, Film Guy, you, of course, are probably going to where? Like Ohio?
I'm going to the wilds of upstate New York, where Mary's family lives. Albany,
hey, man,
Syracuse, you know what it is.
Oh, very nice.
Real people Christmas.
Very European, in a sense. Not as European as Europe.
Upstate is
Syracuse. You could go to Syracuse in Italy if you want, but I just go to Syracuse in New York.
All right.
Well, I love upstate.
Well, there you go. Maybe you guys could switch quickly. Meet each other at
That's fine.
At
you want
JFK.
all my teenagers?
I'll take one, maybe.
You can have your choice.
I don't know. I would think about that, Isabel. You may not like it what happens when he comes back. All right. Well, look.
I'll fix them up for you.
Now, Isabel, let's start with you because we may lose you in this. But when I emailed you guys to come on, I said, give us a selection that would either reflect 2017 or something that might help us going into 2018. This has been a particularly bizarre and in many respects harrowing and depressing year, I think, in a lot of respects. And so I don't know. I mean, Isabel, which did you choose? And I already know this because I know you. But did you choose the one that was like going to help us going forward, or look back in a morose fashion on the 2017?
What do you think? What do you guess?
Isabel's always morose, right?
Yeah, I mean, Isabel.
Morose?
No, of course not. I mean, that's what.
Of course not.
You are. You're constantly.
We're looking forward.
Yes, of course. I know. It's Matthew.
Looking forward.
Matthew is going to give us the hellscape version of the movie suggestion, but I
got to stick to my core brand proposition.
I'm ready for this.
Go ahead.
I was just in an elevator, and I'm getting out and walking down the stairs so that I don't lose you. So that's what it's going to sound like. I'm in the fire stairs going down.
Oh wow! So you're actually in
man. Okay, I'm in the stairwell.
All right.
Ready for it? Now it jumps off. I agree. It was a particularly it was trying. Every day was a slog to get through. Just looking at your Twitter feed, it just was, and you became hardened. And there were bright moments, comets going through the sky, as we saw in Alabama and in your rehiring Sam, which was so exciting and wonderful. And so I did see a movie out that's a big movie that people can go see. But this is where I jumped off. It's called, this is not the recommendation, but the movie that made me think about this and has made me think about love and about coming of age and about just the goodness of humanity, really, was this movie called Call Me by Your Name.
Call Me by Your Name.
That's on my short list of movies from this year to see. Definitely, I had a great day.
It is simply magnificent.
Call Me by Your Name. I've never even heard of that.
Call Me by Your Name. Well, this guy Timmy. I always forget his last name, but
you know what?
Isabel,
we might have to wait for you to get out of the stairs because we're getting like a.
Are you serious?
A clicking noise.
Okay, wait, hold on. I'm running. I'm almost down.
I can actually hear her fine, so it may just be my connection.
Oh, good job, Matthew.
Here we go.
Yeah. I can only do so much for you.
So his name is.
All right, hold on for 1 second.
Kid in it.
Hold on one second.
You can't hear me?
Matthew, can you call me back? Can you try and call me back? Because the clicking is just too much. When you guys.
All
right, go ahead, Isabel. You talk.
Okay, so the kid is he's in Homeland and he's in a movie called I can't remember the other movie he's in. In Lady Bird. He's in Lady Bird, and he's this rising star, and he went to PS 87 and to Delta and to LaGuardia, all these great public schools in New York, and so he's in it. And then but here's what it is. It's really, if you can see it, please go see it because it's beautiful. It will make you very hopeful about the future. But what it made me think of was it was written by James Ivory, who was a partner with Ishmael Merchant, who's dead. But
right.
James Ivory wrote a screenplay, and he did all the Merchant Ivory movies, and he's 89 years old. 89. Okay? Did you get that one?
Yeah, that's old. I mean,
am I?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Well, it's amazing because it's going to be nominated, and he's 89. So his life's work, if you look at it, it's got Howard's End, Room with a View. If you Google all the Merchant Ivory movies and watch any of them, and I would dare say, all of them. It's a lot of E.M. Forster novels. They did. It just is. It's a beautiful way to feel humanity, which is what I think we have to find. They go all over the world. Some are in India, some are in Italy, some are in England and America. And it's just I would recommend to those out there to look up Merchant Ivory and take a deep dive into that beautiful work.
Movies. I'm not a huge fan of those, but of those Merchant Ivory movies, they're always a little bit too.
You're not
genteel for me. I think I don't know, maybe a little bit too. But you know me, I'm a little bit like caustic and cranky about.
But there are characters like Cecil from Room with a View, who's played by the brilliant Daniel Day-Lewis, who's this sort of uptight, person who's academic, but he falls in love.
Can't relate to that, Sam?
No.
Come on.
All right, wait a second. Will you do me a favor? Hold on, Matthew Film Guy. Hold on for 1 second. Matthew Film Guy. I'm texting you the number to call back in. I'm going to let you because it's clicking too much. So Isabel, you stay on with Matthew, and Matthew's going to call back in. Okay.
Okay, I'm staying on.
Matthew, you good? Matthew?
You want me to call you back on another number?
Yeah, you call me back on this number. I mean, you just call me back so we can have a different connection. So, and I just texted you the number.
Very good.
Okay, all right. So we're just going to...
Okay, got it.
Bear with us, folks. For whatever reason, I couldn't go to do what I've done in the past with Skype. I don't know why that is. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. So he's going to call back in, and hopefully we'll get rid of that clicking sound. Yesterday, of course, was the worst day of 2017. It was long. It was the shortest day, and it. You have the phone thing up, right?
I met Deepak Chopra yesterday.
You did?
I really did. It's very fitting.
There we go.
It's the Deepak Chopra meeting music.
All right, you guys there?
I'm here. Do you want me to call Isabel back too?
Oh, you didn't hang up on Isabel, did you?
I had to. I had to unhook her, so I'm going to rehook her.
All right, rehook
I got
her.
it. I'm going to rehook her.
Deepak had some Roman Polanski material he wanted to run by me.
Is that right? Everybody's getting in on that because apparently it's the best thing that can happen to you if you.
It's career rocket fuel.
It's fantastic. Mike Cernovich is now
having an AMA on Reddit.
Is he really?
Me anything.
Yes.
Right at the moment?
Right at the moment. And it's
Ask away.
Matt Binder
Here we are.
is, of course, doing his core brand proposition in live.
All right, so okay, great. So Isabel, you were saying you were trying to get me to watch Room with a View. I'm not going to do that.
Room with a View, Howard, and maybe take a try, because I really feel that Call Me by Your Name is so beautiful, and what it made me think was that people have been making beautiful stories and putting them out there in many forms that predate the administration right now, and it can kind of make us think, you know what, things get better. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There always is something to reap humanity from, and that's what we need now. And James Ivory making this movie in his twilight years called Call Me by Your Name, which is going to get nominated all over the place, and it's an independent film, which are basically they're almost dead.
Right.
No one can make movies now. And this one is beautiful, and it's slow, and there's music, and it's love. It's a huge love story between this graduate student and this young boy, and he's 18, 17, I guess.
Okay.
So really, that's what I came to. I really did. I have to go back to what makes me soothes me and what makes me feel good, and that's the only thing that I can recommend to others.
This is sort of
and
like
then you
why
have to have faith that they will too.
This is sort of like why I rewatch Samuel Jackson's Shaft every couple of months.
That's why Michael watches Shaft. That's how he reconnects in
humanity, space.
So wait a second. So is this a little bit escapist? Is that what you're saying? A little bit escapist, or just a return to remember that there is something not as dark and decrepit as what is going on in our country?
Well, it's sort of both, and I'll also add that it's also the themes in all the Merchant Ivory movies are love, family, homes, country, sense of place, and Ian Forster writes about all that stuff too. So, and that's what we have to dig down and find. And I mean, the politicians and all that have to find an egalitarian way to live, rule, and have the country be all right. But I don't know how to do that. And what the years kind of told me is that I don't really know what the answers are. And the only answers I can find are in the things that I can find in myself, in my emotional life, in my family, and in my own local home. And then hopefully if everybody can find that, we can get to a common ground.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to work for some folks. I'm against almost all of those things, like the love and the family and the country, and like I find that all.
I think love has a role in the chaste sense, but I would be down for the experiment.
Did you say in the chaste sense?
Che.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I wasn't sure.
No.
All right.
But I would say that's a good Che quote. You'd like it, Isabel. But I think I would be totally down for the experiment of locking the congressional Republican leadership and Trump in a institution and showing them Merchant Ivory films on rotation 24/7, like in a kind of benign Clockwork Orange. I would be down.
That might be payback for all the new metal they played at Guantanamo.
There you go.
I like it.
They might not even be able to understand it.
I think they
so
definitely would not be able to
It's like a
tap into
parallax
any of
view
the
type of situation.
Yeah, none of the emotions you're talking about could they tap into. No.
Hold on. Did I hear Kelly on there?
No, that's Jamie.
Hi.
Wait, have you not met Jamie yet?
Hi. No.
Oh, I guess no. Maybe Jamie was
Pleased
absent
to meet you,
that
Jamie.
day. Jamie's here. Kelly is not. Oh, Kelly, I thought was maybe going to come in today, but I guess she didn't.
Wait, can I also say, now we're on the West Side Highway, I just want to tell you that. Can I also say that I want to plug something of mine that also is in the Year of the Woman?
Of course.
Which is that remember how I was writing about menopause?
Yes. Oh,
So much?
How could we forget?
Please.
Right. Well, Goop published it yesterday, and it's up online, and it's a big article about menopause. And I think this year, in that clearly people don't understand women and understand how they work. What we've seen with all the sexual harassment and Weinstein and all the work that Jodi Kantor and other journalists have done. Clearly, we see that there's a gaping hole in how society understands women. So I think they really don't understand menopause, because menopause is not as sexy as even being pregnant or getting your period or anything. So I wrote about it, and it's on Goop, and it's all in the sort of let's embrace everybody for who they are in this world, and not treat people like objects that don't have beating hearts.
Does it involve putting jade eggs in your vagina?
Oh, you're going to make a disparaging Goop comment, but that's okay.
Wait, what is Goop? I've never heard of this.
It's Gwyneth Paltrow's.
I'm not going to say anything else.
Stuff. I know. Don't say that you're going to be disparaging about it, but I will tell you something, that I gave this article to almost every single. I gave it to Vogue and to all these magazines and all these places that were like, ew, menopause. No thanks. Can you write about, I don't know, like affairs or sex or, and Goop was the only one who was like, you know what? We actually do need to talk about menopause.
So it does not recommend you put jade eggs in your vagina.
And they published, so.
Just checking.
Don't disparage the pelvic floor, please.
Oh, trust me, I am very in touch with my pelvic floor.
There's a lot of pelvic floors around here. I mean,
good.
Speak for yourself, dude.
Nice and strong.
Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. But Merchant Ivory, go see Call Me by Your Name if you can see it. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful love story, and I always think that love will save the day in the end from this terrible travesty we find in the White House.
All right. Well,
amen, sister.
We're gonna put a link, the link to Goop. I've never heard of Goop.
That's Gwyneth Paltrow's site. I can't believe you never heard of it.
I will do a whole segment explaining what Goop is.
I didn't know that Gwyneth Paltrow even
this is before we even get to the substance. This is like your equivalent of your Ace of Base lie.
Yeah.
It's pretty ubiquitous in culture, man.
I honestly,
this is Sam claimed to have never heard of Ace of Base, even though life
I had no idea she had.
Like their peak success was when you had was
Goop?
the peak of your. No, I'm talking about Ace of Base.
Oh, okay.
Are you kidding me?
It's hilarious. Trust me.
Okay. Well,
Matt's really into it.
We will link to the Goop piece, and Isabel.
Thank you.
And I am going to see the new one. I'm not going to see Room with a View. I can't.
That's fine. Just Call Me by Your Name, and then the whole thing is that I also think it's pretty incredible that someone who's 89 has written this movie that's so current right now. I really do think that that's something to be hopeful about.
That's
just for all of us to keep going and
means I get a couple more years.
Write about.
You got a couple more years.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's so impressive. And this movie, honestly, it's breathtaking. The movie theater was silent and has been filled up every single day, and it's only open in 2 theaters, and I think now it's open in more. But
could I take Mila to this?
No, I think no, because it is a love story, but it's so deeply, every moment is so deep. She might get bored or be antsy. I mean, I would say do it for her. Sort of how old is she?
I have no idea. I can't. 11? She's 12.
12?
She's 12. Almost, yeah.
Yeah,
12.
a little longer. I would go with Nikki and go and just. I mean, honestly, it's time. It's just.
It's time for her to watch Scarface at 12. You know, you got to ease her in to. I just tried to rewatch Scarface recently, and man, was my 14-year-old self wrong about that movie. Besides the Bolivia
It's not
scenes,
good?
those are cool. It's not a good movie. The Godfather's even better now, but
All right.
Wait, I'm going to ask the teenagers in the car. Has anybody seen Scarface in this car? Did you? The 16-year-old. What do you think of Scarface?
nice.
Quick. You're on the radio. Go.
Oh, wow.
Don't be pretentious, man. Be honest.
I'm not being pretentious. I think it was very enjoyable,
Boom.
but I wouldn't put it in the range of I'd put it as entertaining, not good, like that thing. I'm taking
smart, but a little
Scarface
pretentious.
thinking
I got to be honest with
that
you.
was a time of my. I didn't really extract anything from my time watching Scarface.
How about when Sosa picked up the guy's garbage and he got thrown out of a plane with a rope around his neck? You didn't get something out of that? Like it was awesome?
Oh, that was fucking badass.
Yeah,
Wait a
exactly.
second. Is this Hugh?
Oh, that was so badass.
That was
Who is it?
dope. This is Hugh.
Spoiler alert.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's not. That happens in the first third of the movie, Hugh.
Oh, I'm sorry for swearing.
Yeah, Hugh, what are you doing? What happened to you?
Sam-
You used to be such a nice kid. Now
he's
coming out
enjoying
with profanity.
Scarface.
All right, well.
How about how Tony says he doesn't like Colombians and he's right?
All right, well, Hugh, have a good trip. Let me talk to your mom.
Hi.
Hi. My God.
Sorry.
What is
I
going
didn't
on with
know he
that
was gonna
kid and
swear.
his foul mouth?
Isabel, I'll take the teenager that hasn't seen it.
Okay, that's...
All right, well, Isabel, look, I'm going to let you go because we're still getting that clicking noise, and I think it's because.
Oh no! Can I hear what Matthew says?
All right, yes, you can. Yeah, listen. Hopefully, Matthew, we won't get it from you. All right, so Matthew.
Do you hear it clicking through me there,
Bye,
Sam? How am I doing?
I'm just gonna listen now.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, Isabel.
All right, bye, Isabel.
Bye, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay, so Matthew.
Yes, Sam. Good to hear from you.
We're getting it, but not as pronounced, I think, with the clicking. Now, Matthew, would tell us which route did you go? Did you go with the hopeful, remind us of the humanity that exists despite the fact that we're living in a sort of either a pre or post-apocalyptic? I don't know. It's
But I
somewhere.
like what Matthew does is Matthew always recommends these truly, probably, actually, usually whenever I see them, actually very good movies that are terrifying and this very relaxing. Like he's like, it's a Norwegian film about a future apocalypse where the currency is rape. And it happens, and it's like you described the most horrific movies
First of all, that
imaginable.
movie sounds awesome.
Right, exactly.
I don't know it.
You described the most horrific film, and you're like, and really, it's an indictment not only of patriarchy but also capitalism. It's 10 hours long, and just find it on YouTube. You describe it like first you describe these
find it on
horrific
YouTube.
films in the most relaxed, like this is great way, and then you say it like anybody else has like either the patience or sophistication that you do to be like oh yeah there's a Criterion collection which you could find if you go to a library in Queens which is open every other week, and then you get a box set on VHS, borrow the cassette player from your mother, and then watch it. It's 15 hours long and it's depressing, and that's what I recommend.
Look, you might be exaggerating a little bit because I want to say I am not inherently the man with the most patience or I don't want to call it attention span. I had to work to get to where I am today, and a lot of the films that I've recommended were struggles that were rewarding by the end of them in the way that they actually helped me to become this way. So
no doubt,
it's not. I don't want to say that I'm something special. These films have helped me to become the man I am.
No doubt.
Having said that, I actually want to address what you've asked, Sam, the kind of, I think, a false dichotomy you've set up between whether it's a film that this kind of highlighting of beauty and life and all the goodness, or on the other hand, some sort of depressing kind of wallowing in misery. I actually don't think that necessarily has to apply.
Fair enough. You're suggesting that the movie that you're going to recommend is both depressing
and neither,
or neither. Okay, so action film.
Because yeah, no, but with the way this breaks down for me is you have to learn to accept life the way it is. I know you're raised to kind of want to fight to create the world that you want to live in, but the logical extension of that is escapism from reality. I've personally found that watching a movie that helps to really find the beauty and the truth in life, whether it's on the surface of it positive or negative that you'd want to put into these broad categories, is actually way more rewarding because you get a sense of relaxation. Like, I can be okay with whatever happens, that life is acceptable.
Matthew, that's
like a recipe
that's
for
all,
fascism.
Well, wait a second. That's all well and good. Your attempted argument that you should accept life as it is. However, I right now am looking at QNS.com. And the headline I'm reading is, trucks will be permitted on Grand Central Parkway in Astoria, ending soul-piercing noise on local streets. And as I read through this, I find an image of you standing in front of a podium at a press conference on 31st Street in Astoria. Resident Matthew Weiss said he was ecstatic, elated, and jumping up and down with joy and glee. A 20-year Astoria resident who lives about 100 feet from Astoria Boulevard, he said he has been contacting officials for 15 years about the noise pollution he experienced as a result of the truck, and they now, ladies and gentlemen, have permitted trucks to go on Grand Central Parkway so they can leave the side streets. Matthew, film guy, actually, instead of saying, I have been taught on how to accept life as it is, no, you went out and you affected change for yourself.
I love it, dude. You should run for you should run against Scott Stringer.
Let me finish here. You should go out and change, not just your physical, but the entire traffic pattern, to make life better for the people who are living on the local streets of Queens. And you sit there and dare tell me that you are not one who goes out and wants to change life as it is, but rather you just sit back and accept it? No, if you were that person, Matthew, you'd be sitting in your home in Queens, listening to those trucks whistle by going, this is part of the fabric of life.
Oh, Sam. Well, first of all, I want to say, yes, you do change the things that you have the power to change. That is not in contrast to what I'm trying to say.
God give me the serenity to change
philosophical one. What?
You're going to read off that poster to me? God give me the serenity to accept the things I can't change.
No, that's a good one. But I'm basically saying, if you can contact your local officials for 15 years and have them make a change to the entire flow of traffic on 278 highway that goes by your house because the trucks are very loud when they go by your house, by all means do that. Do not think for a minute that you cannot affect change where it can be made. I'm talking much more about an internal state of either fighting against the world, a kind of an ego state where you just feel like you've got to be separate from what is. I don't think there's any dichotomy between what I said about how films can teach you to be more, kind of equanimical about the way things happen in your life and affecting political change. By all means, no. I listen to your show every day, and I want people to be out there doing what they can do. I'm much more afraid of a kind of mentality that just says, well, I'll just create this kind of false sense of my little life is nice and, well, I don't want to use the word cozy, but my life is okay, so I'm not going to think further, or I'm struggling in some internal way. This is, as the film guy, I'm much more focused on internal states of being. But hey, if you got your food order wrong at the restaurant,
Homo says what?
That's not struggling. What?
Homo says what?
What?
He got you, Michael. He got you. All right. So, Matthew, film guy, with that said, and I should also say...
With that said.
Now, listen. With that said, let me just remind people that on our new website, we have a blog vertical. And so today on the when we put the links in to both your article and to Isabel's, we will put it on the blog. It will not be in the episode thing. You got to go to the blog on the site. So we'll have that's where we'll put things like this. because we can't put links into the posts. So, Matthew, film guy. With that said, with that distinction between you as Matthew, film guy, and addressing your internal reality versus those you as Matthew,
objective
local
and subjective experiential domains as expressed through film as well as noise ordinances.
Right,
and
exactly.
Michael, you're aware of the idea of near enemies, right, Michael?
Yes, I love near enemy concept. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a near enemy confusion to think that accepting the world as it is means you just sit in your house and say, well, the trucks are going to bug me, screw it. No, it's a little different than that, but we don't have the time.
No, that's right.
Go ahead, Sam. You were going to say.
I was going to say. So, with that said, what
has been said?
Which has been said. What do you recommend we watch, and what will be the purpose? Just simply to experience this moment, or will it be one to inform the way that we should be in 18, or to look back on 17?
It'll be a little bit less specific to the year, but can I just say before I give you this, I want to address something about the Cernovich thing. I can either do it now or after. Can we just
Well, let's do it now. And we should tell people that Mike Cernovich went on and did an AMA. I think he did it during the show because he was afraid of me showing up. And we will read off some of the comments.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I would also say that if you were going to be making a documentary about Mike Cernovich, you would go, because there's a lot of links there, like in your blog post titled, When in Doubt, Whip It Out, or Tools of Cultural Marxism Used to Criminalize Normal Sex, or... did you hire a private investigator to harass witnesses like you claim you did on your old legal blog, or is that untrue? I mean, these are all resources that I think, it was good of posters on this AMA to bring out, but can really be brought out in another medium, in one that is easily digestible and people won't have to, sort of aggregate things. So
that is amazing. That is amazing fodder for our upcoming film.
Yes.
But I want to just address a comment to Michael. Michael, I know I've told you about this in private, but I believe you're making the big mistake in the way you're portraying Mike Cernovich.
Okay, please go ahead.
You are doing a frontal lisp, like suffering succotash. He does not have that lisp. He has what's called a lateral lisp, which seems something like this. So on the S's, you sort of spread it to the side. You see?
Can we
This is the way that he should sound.
Can we meet and have drinks soon and practice this together, and I will get it to perfection early 18.
Sure, that would be my pleasure.
Oh, wow.
You see, it's simple. It's simple once you get the hang of it.
Oh, my gosh.
Your conversation.
Cernovich apparently is melting down in real time on the AMA.
Oh, come on. We got to play it.
That's fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dude, just play it. We got to play it. This
Hold
is gonna
on.
Be the
We got
final
to play
crack-up
this here. Matt, have you gotten the link? Let me send it to you right now. Here it is.
Speed it up for Matthew. It's a film from Hong Kong. It's about a family that commits incest, but they actually love each other, and it's paradoxically beautiful, but also an indictment of our world. All right, let's watch Mike Cernovich.
Skip it.
Hold on. Here he is. We're going to listen to a little bit of Mike Cernovich.
Freaking going off on these idiots.
That's his wife.
Locked.
What is he
Sean
wearing?
Wentz going off on these idiots. All right. So I'll take a few more questions.
What?
Did you call your scam Gorilla Mindset because your facial features look like a dumb ape?
Oh, he's going to read the ones that are the most childish and not the ones that are really...
a tiny gorilla dick.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Never heard that one before. Clever. Next thing you know, you're going to spell Cernovich with a T.
Oh, he needs a cry. That's ultimately what he needs. After this is all done
so
and
sad.
he leaves, when he leaves the internet,
No one's ever thought of that, bro. You're so clever.
when he finally leaves the internet, we can all cry. We can all give him a hug.
Alt-right is an openly... The sine qua non, what describes the alt-right as being different from everybody else is it is a direct advocacy for a white ethno-state. So if you don't advocate for a white ethno-state, then you're not alt-right. That's the definition. white ethno-state. Not even white nationalism, because people can think that, you know, white people are okay or white people are good guys or whatever, but maybe not necessarily want to live in a white ethno-state or not advocating for that. So for me, I personally do not have a white wife, so living in a white ethno-state would present some logistical challenges for me. That said, I think it's appalling the way white people are attacked in America, and the way white men especially are used as a punching bag by the media, and that's completely immoral and illogical and wrong. So I occupy this space where I just say that...
What is he trying to do? Hold his head in?
It's wrong what's happening to white people, but that doesn't mean I believe we should advocate for a white ethno-state. There's a lot of ground in between that.
Yes.
There's a lot of ground in between basically just being a complete racist asshole and essentially advocating for genocide. That's a good point.
Between, people who talk about Sandy Hook and then people who
talk about
other
Pizzagate.
things. I'm more over here than over there.
Yeah, he's more over Pizzagate. That's right.
I'm more Pizzagate than Sandy Hook
the only way
denial.
it can be relevant. The only way some people can be relevant
I'm more date rape
is
than
to talk about me.
No,
So
date
you just
rape.
have to realize that I'm all that they have going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to
That's
do?
it. That's all we got, man. That's all we got.
I'm it.
You are it, my man. All right,
we
let's
need
pull
to
him
give
off, and we'll bring him
my
back on in a bit. So
sensitive Twitter.
Matthew Film Guy.
All need hugs.
Yes, I'm still here.
Don't have it.
Were you abused as a child? Scared
Oh,
to smile?
poor,
They called
poor.
you ugly.
Well,
life's
all right.
harsh.
So sorry for that interruption,
Hug me,
Matthew
don't
Film
reject
Guy.
No, that was pleasurable. I'm glad to have heard it as much as I could.
So So with Mike Cernovich.
How am I going to follow that? That was fantastic.
Well, in that short clip we saw of Mike Cernovich
So much
live,
stuff we can use.
so
go
sad.
ahead.
Here's a question, Mike Cernovich. Mike, how does it feel to get a taste of unearned victory only to have it snatched away from you, as was the case in the Sam Cedar incident? And he said, "You mean some dude I never heard of still talks about me? Sounds like a win to me because the haters are the best promoters." I'm not sure I understand that, but somebody comes back with, "It's true." I don't know how he's never heard of. He's the one who dug up the tweet.
Right. He literally paid
was
somebody,
paying,
as
yeah.
far as I understand.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's true. The word's getting out about a massive fraud you are. And then someone else, Baba Booey said, ironically, you try to get Sam fired has been the best promotion he's had in years. Is the gorilla mindset you constantly cucking yourself?
Wow. Wow.
Oh, my
Excellent.
God.
Excellent from Baba Booey.
We have had
Respect.
serious conversations, like inside this, like the show is doing really well. We're proud of what we do, but like, how do we is Sam is it two-air America? How do we get inserted in the middle of the debate a little bit more? And thank you for doing this.
Here's one. Hey, Mike.
Oh yeah, I consider it a huge win for me personally. As Sam knows, I gained about 20 more Twitter followers.
Hey, Mike, do you still believe that there's a secret sex dungeon under the pizza place in D.C.? Gorilla Mindset never said that. Nice try with your edited videos. And then someone said, everyone watched you post that shit in real time, Mike. Quit lying, you lisping bitch. No, I think that's... I don't appreciate, of course, the language. Everyone effing saw you say that shit. You're so effed in your shitty ass gorilla brain that you don't realize how pathetic and worthless your life is. Just eat the effing stuff. Do one good thing on this earth while you can. Never mind that ninth try with your edited videos. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that should be nice try with your edited videos.
I gotta learn.
No,
from
honestly,
you.
let me say this, and I just want to say this, and I want people to understand that I want to be heartfelt here. So I'm going to play this.
Yeah,
music.
go ahead.
Look, Mike's going through a tough time now. In the wake of not just failing to get me fired, because it was actually twice as worse for him to get me fired and then have them go, "We made a mistake. We listened to a rape apologist."
Twice as worth.
And then he also, all the grandstanding he did. I mean, there's nothing like going into the end zone, spiking the ball, dancing around, and then having it be called back and find out actually the penalty's on you and the other team gets the ball.
And so what Cam Newton does when that happens is that's when he does it.
Right. Now listen. Mike went on to go and try and nail Chuck Schumer out of his desperation, and he ended up with probably a visit from the police. And now he goes on AMA to try and regain some of his confidence. Going into the holidays of all times. And people show up, instead of giving him a gift, they give him a massive, massive, well-deserved to be fair, lump of coal. So let's just all take a moment to, I was going to say sympathize with Cernovich, and actually what I meant was to party about it.
Oh,
Everybody
dude, no,
raise a glass and
but I'm gonna engage in the same paradox that Matthew's advocating. I mean, I think it's hilarious. I love it. I'm so happy that people are doing this. I love spiking the ball in the end zone with him. But I totally sincerely mean, the Buddhist part of me says, once he's kicked off of Twitter and once he's no longer causing active harm in people's lives and he wants a big cry, look, I'll show up and give the guy a hug. I feel bad for him.
I almost agree with you. I won't give him a hug, but I don't care about Cernovich as to make his ability to do the horrible things he does and to spread his horrible cultural ideas. I think ending that is really the only thing I care about.
Right.
Him as a person, go with God, wrap your head in whatever it is that's going on there. I don't know. He's not one of those guys who drills holes into his skull, is he? And
I don't know. But I would say in his case, he better go with Allah, because I don't think weak Jew Christian God's going to do the trick.
Yeah,
he's going to need some real religion. Allahu Akbar.
All right. So Matthew, film guy. Now that we have,
I wouldn't even share a soy chai latte with him.
You gotta teach me.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are way more empathetic than me. I will spit on his grave.
Oh, well,
I'll spit on his grave too.
Nice.
Though. Again, just keep running all the paradoxes. Oh, I mean, when he dies, I'll laugh. But I hope before he passes away, hopefully at a ripe old age, he'll have a few moments of emotional catharsis. He's a troubled person.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Sam, I agree with you, Sam. He should not be in a position to do any more damage to our culture or any of the innocent victims of his buffoonery. But as a human being, he's clearly compensating for something, and he needs to find some sort of healing on his own time, not out in public with all the rest of us going down with him.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, maybe we'll take him on an ayahuasca retreat sometime.
Kind of what I'm saying.
That would be brilliant.
But on the other hand,
that would be brilliant.
Maybe do it online, because it's kind of fun for us.
He'd come out
do it online.
Of the ayahuasca. I just know he'd come out of the ayahuasca experience just speaking perfect English. It'd be amazing.
And he would be like, that was a very powerful experience. First, I would like to make amends for
my list
the
is
woman.
Gone.
So Matthew,
is gone.
What do we got? What do you got for us?
I respect women.
All right. So first of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't say everybody should go check out Public Speaking, the documentary about your guest today, Fran Lebowitz. That's a great movie. It kind of encapsulates her life and her feelings about the major issues. Even though it's about 7 years old, I still think it's highly relevant to today. So go see that. But that's not what I came armed with. I also want to recommend a film that is, you might have to dig through somebody's VHS collection to find it. No, it's not true. Actually, it's streaming for rent on Amazon, and it's free if you want to subscribe to what's called Sundance Now, the Sundance streaming service. I don't do that, but if you want to, that's great. And it's by one of my favorite filmmakers. I think I've recommended some work by him before. His name is Maurice Pialat, and this movie is called Graduate First. The French title I cannot quite pronounce, but Graduate First was made in the early 80s, and it's basically the story made with amateur actors, but very realistic performances. A group of teenagers basically struggling with the point of taking their graduation test, and basically whether or not they're going to actually be contributing members of society and what that means, struggling with their parents, a lot of the kind of understandable cliches of teenage life, but done in his very dispassionate kind of non-editorializing, very kind of oblique filmmaking style. He has some he's drawn some comparisons to John Cassavetes. That some people call him the French John Cassavetes. It's not quite an accurate analogy, but it gives you a sense of what you're in for. The teenagers are kind of disillusioned with the adult world about what's coming ahead of them. So that is a nod towards what you expected me to show you, a movie about kind of nihilistic, dead-end lives. But that's not really what you get from this movie. You get, even in the most horrific or kind of a structurally negative situation, you can find moments of relief, moments of connection, moments of understanding. And it's not a false kind of veneer of that. It's the really earned moments that we actually get in life, even though things are not as idealized as some of our movies would make them out to be.
So Matthew,
graduate first.
Why this movie though? I mean, but why this movie now?
Well, Sam, I'm not always trying to connect my movie recommendations or even my own personal movie screenings or film going to the current moment. Art is the news that stays news. The details may change, the players may change, but when you see something that's really meaningful, it's always applicable.
Can I ask a brief question?
Wow.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I specifically, hold on. I think I specifically asked for put a constraint on this segment, and
but he doesn't buy the premise, Sam. He just explained it to you.
Son of a bitch.
You didn't give me a.
Oh, you didn't get that email?
Oh God.
I don't know. What did you want from me? I usually give you whatever you want.
It was a fuck up.
All right.
That's what it was.
It was either look back on
All right.
2017 or something that's going to help us in 2018.
I thought what you were just doing.
Every movie that I recommend is going to help you with every year of your life. Okay, let's put that.
Yeah, see, there it is. I thought the recommendation was you were still doing a Cernovich post ayahuasca impression. That character
I'm so
could live.
sorry about the pizza.
I am so sorry about
What's that?
Pizzagate. Films can both reflect on what we cannot change, but what we must change collectively.
The real change must come from within us.
So the movie is Graduate First by Maurice Pilat. Pilat.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. I mean, it sounds like a good film.
It's a great film, and even one that I think Mila, being 12 years old, is probably going to find interesting. I mean, it's French teenagers in the 80s, so there's some, kind of anachronistic things for her in terms of, like, the age, but I think a lot of the kind of internal, like, social group kind of backbiting and kind of the inter-romantic kind of struggles that the kids have, I think she can identify with all that stuff at 12.
Oh,
so,
yeah. I mean, backbiting,
join her with
that type of stuff, that's right up her alley.
Sounds like
but,
That's right.
Betrayals and reversals and, yeah.
All right, but somehow I've got to figure out get it on his
Amazon.
No,
streaming.
on her phone is what I get.
And it's not explicit in any way. There's not like anything graphic, so you can take that to heart.
Fantastic. All right, well, Matthew, film guy, and why don't you tell me while we have you on the phone? I didn't get this from Isabel, and I should have. But resolution, what is it? Do you do like a New Year's resolution?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, I mean, in a sense, every year I just decide like I'm going to rededicate myself to improving my posture and improving my physical health. I spend most of my time sitting at an editing desk, so for neglecting my physical form has become an issue for me. So I'm just going to rededicate myself to my health, to my own health. Here's to my own health, Sam.
Well, Matthew, let me just say, and to Isabel, if you're still listening, guys, thank you so much for your contribution to the show, and not just this year, obviously, but for years. And for the years to come, I really do appreciate it, and anything that I've watched that is decent over the past 5 or 6 years is because of you two, basically. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Sam, and I just know that, from me and from Mary, my fiance, we both love what you do, and we love the whole crew, and we're really grateful for the work that all of you guys are doing, especially in light of the whole Chernobyl situation.
Well, help me work on that technique soon.
It's from the side. It's a side.
From
It's
the side.
kind
I
of
can't,
go from the
now
side.
Sam has an independent
I
business.
can't wait
He should
for
be thanking me. Thanking me. Thank you.
Matthew, film guy, will set up some type of like boot camp
Yeah,
where you
I'm
go
into it.
and learn
I
to
would
do a
love it.
Cernovich
Speak
impersonation.
like Cernovich.
Magus.
763.
Magus.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. Isabel, thank you.
All right,
Have
we'll
a
be in
great
touch.
New Year, guys. And
You too.
Merry Christmas. All right.
Same to you, Sam.
Oh, there it is. I don't think so. He is? Matthew, film guy? He's gonna call it.
I don't know. Is the Periscopes thing still happening? Can we watch a bit more? Random, yeah. Now we're in the
Sleep
modern
like a
era.
champ and wake up energized every day. How's your life going? So they think by voting it down 240 times.
What does that mean? What happened when you downvote?
It just means that that's how many people read it and hated it.
So is that supposed to hurt your feelings?
Yeah, because I'm not cool on Reddit.
Okay.
I know, sorry. I'm just
trying to understand.
His wife is like this
It's a
weird
different-
combination of like
It's like imagine high
Svengali
school,
caretaker
and they're like, "Oh, we're the cool kids,
and
and
like
you're not the cool
special
kids."
needs school teacher.
It
It's
seems to
very
be
odd.
really hurting him.
Yeah.
I feel bad for.
definitely.
No, I don't. I'm joking. Of course, I'm joking. Of
Back
course,
to
I'm joking.
Yeah.
spit on his grave.
They're
Let's just see. Wow.
Just it is, man. What else we got?
Oh, he's just getting ethered on Reddit.
Yeah. Oh God.
Holy shit.
Wow. Boy, people are
Fan.
being very mean to him.
Yeah.
Very mean.
All right, keep the we're almost up to 1,500 comments. Do you need to go to Reddit? You do. You need to go to Reddit and ask questions.
Need backup.
Why does your ex-wife still pay your bills? Because the D was that good. Can I say that? Or?
The dating. You really don't get that even?
Well, I imagine what it is. Sex? Is that what you're talking about?
yes, yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It is.
because he's
Oh, 'cause he's
he
so
was
sexy.
so sexually
sexy.
good in his sex.
I get it now.
He sexually
camera.
satisfied her. Okay.
Now you're all,
There's something. I mean, let's pull him down. I mean, there's something. I mean, you know, there is a sense of like, oh, we're watching someone who's clearly disturbed.
And her laugh was a
And-
little too much.
And
Her
there's
laugh
like
leads me to things.
there you can't help but think like this is going to end in some type of tragedy. And that is, you know, like God knows, like people like this, they can't, you know, he's going to flame out in some really bad way, I think.
I think it's
And-
happening.
The Coney
right?
2012 guy?
What's that?
Yeah,
Like,
the Coney 2012 guy that like.
Oh yeah, they'll find him on some like in front of some bushes in Formosa, like jerking off.
Yeah, I mean, God knows what's going to happen. So, you know, there is a sort of a quality of like, are we, you know,
Just wanted to get a real therapist, man.
Right.
Yep.
All right, now can we watch more, please?
No, all right. Well, I want to go to the phones. What's that?
We made our contribution. Now I'd like to hear him having a complete
Right.
psycho-emotional meltdown, please.
Oh, let's go. Let's go to the phones first. Call from a 551 area code. Who's this? Let's just see if the phones are working. 551.
It's A Square. It's A Square.
A Square. How are you? Thanks so much. For calling.
How are you, Sam?
I'm doing great. I'm watching Mike Cernovich meltdown in real time. That's pretty fun, and doing the final
That's a
show of
lot
the
of
year.
fun.
So
I know, and I always try to call during your final show, and I'm going to try to be quick because I'm sure everybody's trying to call. What a treat to have Fran today, although I'm not as hopeful as she is. I thought there was a little bit more hope than I anticipated in her comments today.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to just see the development. I think she wasn't, you know, in 2011. So much has changed in those 7 years I'm really, I don't want to say shocked by it, but I really do think that like the generation of just about everybody in here. I mean, Michael's a little bit older than that, but everybody else in here is, it's exciting because I think it's, there's reason to be hope. Now, of course, we're hurtling towards doom, but aside from that, at least there's a good generation that's going to deal with it.
I hope so. But in the meantime, just want to thank you guys for, as always, keeping us sane. And Sam, you really show the courage of your convictions with this MSNBC situation. And we are so proud to be supporters of the show. And just want to give a shout out to Fierce Jamie. That comment about Mother the other day was like, about Pence and Mother.
Oh,
that was really, really on point.
Oh, thank you.
Brandon, we got to get you a mic
Yes.
so we can hear you.
We'll work on
Matt,
that.
super producer, and Michael Jamal, shout out. Tony, just if you're listening, his middle name is Jamal, so there is some color there after all. and just a shout out to all the regular callers, Chris Lapaco, Mindy, John from San Ann, Ronald Reagan, and always bringing the stories about his clients fighting for injustice, racism, and abuse. And it's just the expansion of the MR family this year has been great. Jimmy, love that new song about Sammy. And just to wish everybody a great holiday, and Sam, just stay unbought and unbossed.
Thank you, A Square. Really appreciate it. And we appreciate, obviously, your comments and contributions. All right, have a good New Year.
Thank you.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Jamie.
Bye.
Wow. There is a true leader. All the things synthesized there.
Oh, you know what? While we're being so thankful, we should probably play this. There's nothing that says we are slipping into an authoritarian state more than a huge ad buy for an ad that thanks our dear leader. It was interesting. I went to Cuba in 2002. My wife was working on a documentary at the time, and the signage and the propaganda was very reminiscent of what was going on in this country at that time, where you would see these billboards that were, and I remember in Lincoln, Nebraska,
compare Fidel to Bush.
I'm telling you, there was a lot of propaganda that was very similar, and this thing. This is pretty impressive. They're going to spend millions of dollars putting this ad out over the next, several months. Here it is.
Some of the president's advisors tonight are telling me they want to try to pivot out of this victory on tax cuts to infrastructure, immigration reform, other big issues. And this pro-Trump nonprofit group, America First Policies, is now planning a $1 million TV ad blitz that will start on Christmas Day. But in fact, they're giving Fox News at night a first look. Watch.
Oh, what a surprise.
Thank you for cutting my taxes.
Thank you for fixing our economy.
Thank you for keeping my family safe.
Thank you for putting America first.
Thank you for supporting Israel.
As veterans, thank you for reminding us to stand for our national anthem.
Thank you, President Trump.
Thank you, President Trump, for letting us say Merry Christmas again.
This is so dark.
Isn't it?
I can't pivot off that one, man.
Do you understand that he's allowed you to now say, am I allowed to say it? Merry Christmas again? No.
Only if you only say it.
If you only say Merry Christmas.
We should have a kid who will say thank you to the president for saying Merry Christmas again. That's one of the things. We should finish with that.
10 locations. Thanks for the knockout game, President Obama.
Thanks for the phone, President Obama.
Thanks for knocking down the motherfucking churches and putting a mosque up and shit.
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
But that's going to go out, $1 million ad buy, and I'm really surprised that Fox was able to land that in advance.
Exclusive.
That's a good use of taxpayer dollars.
Well, it's not taxpayer dollars.
Okay, never mind.
It should be. I mean, if we had a proper taxation system, they wouldn't have that money to throw around.
That's right.
White people are trash, man.
I feel like he would like to figure out a way to use taxpayer dollars for that.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. In fact, I think if it was anything remotely close, he's like, why are we not using tax dollars for this? I'm talking about the president. Here is this. Is this a moment of like Trish Reagan, like sort of just being shocked? Is that what this is? So a Fox Business anchor is just absolutely stunned that President Trump did not keep his promise. Here is Trish Reagan. Is it Regan or Reagan? And here she is, just absolutely shocked and what stayed in the tax bill.
The House is going to be voting on the final tax bill tomorrow afternoon. Now, the president keeps touting this as the biggest tax cut ever. And while it's great for corporations, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it's also great for a lot of fat cat private equity investors, and there's something wrong with that, like this guy, Steve Schwartzman, who's made over $400 million in 1 year. And percentage-wise, well, guess what? His tax bracket is actually lower than a New York City cop. How do you like that? And it's because he calls his income investment. The president promised to fix this, remember?
We will eliminate the carried interest deduction, well-known deduction, and other special interest loopholes that have been so good for Wall Street investors and for people like me.
But neither the House nor the Senate ever bothered to address this. So those private equity fat cats get away with paying investment taxes instead of income taxes, and that is just wrong. So why doesn't anyone care? Do you consider that carried interest income or investment?
Well, again, it's technically it's carried interest in the way that it's allocated in the tax system, also known as profits interest.
So then you believe it should get a lower tax rate?
Again, it's a complicated issue. It's not that much money.
No, it's not that much money. I mean, who cares about $100 billion? Maybe Steven Mnuchin doesn't care about $100 billion or his billionaire friends, but come on. You mean to tell me that special interest lobbyists are so alive and well in Washington that they convinced the entire House and the entire Senate to ignore this inequity? I'm beginning to wonder if our country is becoming ungovernable. Because I'll tell you one thing, our founding fathers never, ever anticipated a swamp like the one we have today.
Wow. Now, it sounds to me, if I had to say, somebody's contract is up. That's what I think is going on there. She's on Fox Business News, and she is actually like surprised and outraged by this?
She's
Seriously?
woke now.
She's woke.
She's going to go work at MSNBC.
I mean, at that rate, I'm not even sure she can get on MSNBC. And she's going to be at RT soon.
Democracy Now!
Right, exactly. Well, there you go, folks. There was a lot of other problems. Cutting the corporate tax rate. I mean, look, want to cut the corporate tax rate? Pretend like it's going to do something other than enrich those same people? You can delude yourself. That's fine. But
take a Skype call, I think.
Take a Skype call?
Is there a call from Skype on there?
Well, I can't tell.
I can't tell?
We're going from an 832 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 832? Oh, shoot. We have that problem again.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh, man. Oh, too bad. All right. Well, Happy New Year, everybody.
Wait a second. Now we're having that problem again. I don't know what happened. Let's see.
I would like to thank President Obama for closing down the border, giving me a free cell phone and welfare, man. You're the best president ever. Alhamdulillah. I would like to thank President Obama for apologizing for the many crimes of the United States.
Calling from a 603 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Man.
Bad time for
Kyle,
the phones to
you
die.
Bastard.
Bad time for the phones to die. Sorry, folks. I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix this. It is not on our end. We will go to the IMs. Yeah, I'm sorry, folks, about that. We will fix that eventually. Darn it. Let's see. Maybe. Okay. Let's go to the IMs. I'm sorry, callers. We're not happening right now. What is going on with this? The IM now. I'm having problems.
Oh.
It's one of those days, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, let's play this Pete Hoekstra thing. This is amazing. Now, Pete Hoekstra, you'll recall, was also back in the day. He was the guy who actually said that, I think he sat on the House Services Committee. I can't remember what it was during the Iraq War, but he actually claimed that weapons of mass destruction were not only in Iraq, but had been found in Iraq after the beginning of the invasion and occupation of Iraq. Now, of course, that's not true, and we know that because we know that's not true. But here he is. He is now, ladies and gentlemen, well, I'll tell you what he is after we play this clip. But he's being interviewed by Dutch TV. You're going to hear a Dutch journalist ask Pete Hoekstra about no-go areas in Netherlands. Here we go.
Speaking of threat, at one point you mentioned in a debate that there are no-go zones in the Netherlands and that cars and politicians are being set on fire in the Netherlands.
I didn't say that. That is actually an incorrect statement. Yeah, we would call it fake news.
Is that
I
fake
never
news?
said that.
Because it's what you literally said.
No, it's not what I said.
The Islamic movement has now gotten to a point where they have put Europe into chaos. Chaos in the Netherlands. There are cars being burned. There are politicians that are being burned. And yes, there are no-go zones in the Netherlands.
You call it fake news. Obviously,
I didn't call that fake news. I didn't use the word this today.
No?
No. I don't think I did.
Okay, I think.
This poor. Oh, and incidentally, I should tell you, this is America's new ambassador to the. Let me just check. Oh, the Netherlands. And there is the reporter. At the end of this, the reporter's looking around to his cameraman, going, What is going on here? To watch a European, someone who is not American, let's say. I mean, I would imagine this applies to any non-American. And particularly one who has not lived in an authoritarian state where government officials just nakedly say things that are lies. To watch them try and process what is going on in front of them is both sad and hilarious in a way. This guy's just looking around going wait, is anybody? He just said fake news. What?
It's like an alien talking to a bug.
It is. The guy's just completely flummoxed because he doesn't know what to say. Calling from a 201 area code. Let's see if this works. 201. 201. 201. Let's see. I'll try it one more time and maybe, I don't know. Calling from a 201 area code. Who is this? Sorry, folks. It's broken. The call system is broken.
Is it?
I don't know what to tell you.
Broken even for calling
It's broken. All right. Well,
I got to talk to Kyle about that before tonight.
Yeah, it's call-ins.
Well, it's not working only for call-ins? What about for guests?
Not. Guests are fine.
Guests are fine. I mean, call-ins I want to, but
Mike Sternofish. I'm so angry right now. My mood headband is overheating my brain. AT&T employee. AT&T is also laying off 4,600 employees. They found out 2 weeks ago, out of a job early January. Also, the union wanted a $4,000 raise for union employees if this bill passed, but the CEO agreed to a $1,000 bonus instead. Also, have your listeners look into prepaying property taxes before the end of the year. I'm doing so because my property taxes and state income taxes are far greater than the $10,000 cap. Thames Darwin, hearing Sam ask what the D is like hearing my grandmother has what kind of music Led Zeppelin play. Very old person cute. Happy Goyish New Year. Lewis 77, Mnuchin looks like the villain from Raiders of the Lost Ark done poorly as a wax figure.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I've heard that before.
It really was chilling looking into his bland, horrible face just now. Like, I don't want to be a Lucas. There are way worse things about him to criticize, but
oh my God,
these are our oligarchs used to be cool, and now this is who we are
low-end
being
oligarchs.
ruled by.
Yeah, you should have seen how I negotiated to buy my wife. You call that low end? That was real work. Okay,
It's extra degrading.
Well, to be fair, this guy is. He's an oligarch, it's true, but he also was engaging in sort of the lowest form of ripping off people as CEO of One West, and the forced foreclosures so they could get fees is just abhorrent. Like there was a. Let me put it this way: there was a more one-to-one connection between him and this type of crime than you would anticipate from most oligarchs who like to just sort of. All this stuff just happens as a business that just takes place, and they don't have to really do anything
Exactly.
other than, pay for the fuel for it. But this guy was a little bit more, I think, hands-on.
They used to be classy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever works. Yeah.
I'm just going to buy a state and then pay off a politician to make sure that the railroad goes through there, as opposed to we're going to have a policy. We're going to force people into foreclosure. Right, exactly. I'm not going to be pickpocketing people as they get on the train. F. Murray Abraham's character in De Palma's Scarface is hanged from a helicopter, not a water boat, says Jay Tingle. Oh, my God. Matthew Film Guy is a homo. Warmest winter wishes to all the Majority Report personalities and producers. Matt just said, you call this winter? Come out to the plains sometime. I bet the phone system's working on Weird Mike's podcast. You guys have been pushing this all year, and your efforts are paying off. Show quality has been improving steadily all year. Well, thank you. Contagious Chameleon. Did you see that piece from Rachel Maddow that showed a number of new people running for Congress? The number is that 391 new Democrats, 7 or 8 times the number of new Democrats that have ever run, dwarfing the number of Republicans by a huge multiple, larger than Republicans over Democrats in 2009. Framophilia. Happy holidays to you. I hope you all think my juvenile request for balls takes yesterday was worth it once you hear my holiday gift I emailed. Also, the live Nativity Social Justice Church I told you about last week is still kind of under attack with a silly petition to remove the nativity scene. There's no animal abuse there. I doubt these people even care the congregation serves the homeless and protests for immigrant rights against economic injustice, milking the wrong cow. Thick Third. Michael, I really hope your show takes off and you leave Majority Report. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
That was really you're going to read that one on the last show of the year, Sam?
I don't anticipate what these things say, honestly. Thick Third. Michael, I really hope your show takes off. Okay, and then I should have stopped. And you leave MR. Happy holidays, everybody.
You just read it
that
again.
can be read all sorts of ways.
Michael, what's wrong with you? What? The DX Fool. Hi, folks, and happy Christmas, Madan. Attorney Andrew, on the proposed Department of Labor rules you mentioned with Cliff, to clarify, current rules allow restaurants to pool tips such that the tips servers receive can be used to tip out people like bartenders, bussers, etc. However, the rule mandates that the employees keep all their tips. The proposed Department of Labor rule would allow the employer to take any tips that tip employees receive over and above the minimum wage. Now that the individual mandate's been repealed, where do the quote, I don't support single payer because I want to strengthen Obamacare, unquote, crowd go? Wanted to finish off saying that y'all have been great this year, and I wanted to suggest maybe a 2018 check-in with Adam Curtis on whether there's something tantamount to the zone of he zone in year into Trump. Do we have Adam Curtis on?
No, we've never had Adam
Didn't
Curtis
we mean
on.
to?
We planned to, and then it just never happened.
Let's do that.
Yeah, what happened to that?
Sounds like a good idea.
I have no idea.
I thought we actually did.
No.
I thought we did too, and then I was looking back trying to find it, and I'm like, no, we didn't have him on.
We planned to have him on.
Never
Didn't we?
had
Like
that.
have
I
him.
mean, yeah, I was waiting for it.
Yeah, we should have him on a Friday. We're really not even a Friday. Colin Doucet. Ben Carson. God, you better hope Orion's belt has a buckle if you try and stop my Machiavellian plan to get to the presidency. I have become more powerful than you. Dark Matter. Thank you, Sam, for letting us say white trash again. Disco Stew. I take some issue with the way things were framed yesterday on Coastal Elites. I'm a black man living in rural flyover country. And I assure you, race and cultural resentment are the motivating forces for white Midwestern conservatives. Racism isn't a tool. It already exists in as many people's hearts and minds as it is appealed to by conservatives. You cannot overcome this with an economic argument. See Sam's example of black communists in the South. We shouldn't worry about offending these people by calling them what they are, deplorable, because we won't get them anyways. Failing to call a racist, however, will turn off people like me. Let's not forget they decry coastal elites, and who exactly did they elect? Who is in Trump's cabinet? Who are the people they watch on TV and listen to on radio? Liberal coastal elites. When used by conservatives, coastal elite is just another euphemism along the lines of urban, inner city, etc., meant to appeal to people's inner bigotry. Have a nice holiday, ladies and gents. Going to be a long week without MR. Well, we've got best ofs.
And I will always, and I'm sure Jamie will too, call racism. I think some things are getting
that's not up for
some things
debate.
are getting some conflated there, but I will just want to co-sign in the new year. The general point being that conservatives are garbage and white people are trash. Just don't say white trash.
Yeah, I agree with
Just
that.
reverse it.
White garbage. No bumps in the road. John, Kyle? Rebecca 4-Piece. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you for keeping us informed and sane. Bless the entire Majority.fm staff. We love you. Thank you. Midnight Pizza, Mon. Thanks for the great year, MR Crew. I wish I could give to cucknation.org, but I just can't hand my pink slip. Apparently, it's becoming cumbersome for my employers to keep me droning ways in this Wall Street closet. Keep on keeping on. We need more Pat. Someone give him a mic. Oh, Patrick. For the new year, you could wear a tracksuit with a sweater vest over it. Oh, gosh. Will you bring that over here? Right behind you, Brendan? Yeah.
Are you gonna put that
we
thing
can't
on?
take any phone calls, but I will put this on.
Careful, it might burn you.
It might burn. Yeah. Hold on for 1 second. We're just going to
Yeah, that's right. I like Brendan's efficiencies. We don't have time for this bullshit. We've already seen it. Just put it on and wrap up the goddamn segment.
No, we need a big reveal.
Hold on. We're going to do the big reveal. I'll step out and then we'll come back in. We just got a couple more.
Hell yeah.
Oh my God.
He's going to come back dressed like Santa Claus.
He's going to come back dressed like Jew Claus. Jew Claus. Jesus, that really is a horrific looking thing.
You ready?
God.
I feel like we should play some music.
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
what about jingle bells?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, there should be some, like, Christmas. There we go. Here's my new sweater vest, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, I'm going to stand back here so I can really model it. You can see the entire thing. And on the back. All right. I will wrap up the show. I want to thank Ronald Reagan for this wonderful vest.
Keep it going. Just
you
ride
will
it out.
see it on, this will be on eBay, ultimately. Let's see. Let us Skype in. Says Rocco Basilic. Sam, I know basically nothing about economic policies or theory, but could you please explain why the deficit doesn't actually really matter? Does this apply at local levels as well? One more, Nick. Listen to the Stephanie Kelton interview that we're going to be playing this week or next week. It is part of our best of Wednesday. You will understand it. It does not apply at the local level because the local authorities do not have the ability to print their own currency. So for a municipality, for a state, particularly one that has a a balanced budget amendment, but across the board doesn't apply in the same way. But the federal government could make up the difference. Sam Skin folks, thank you, MR crew, for the great shows this year and for standing up to fascism, even if it's fascist of the lispy variety. Theodore Cuxable, this month marks my anniversary becoming an MR member. I joined after having a dream where I was in the MR studio in Brooklyn, but it was legit next to the Gowanus Canal. Old Matt was there, and Michael was a black man. Ogre was going to call in for the first time ever and do an amazing Ted Crockett, but being about converted to libertarianism because I know who pays for the robes. But anyway, wanted your thoughts on what you think the end game is for the GOP with the economy. I feel as MR and TYT does about increased suffering and inequality, but if this is going to be so disastrous, what do they get other than bleeding out the body? Even farmers need to occasionally re-enrich the soil. Well, first off, I would say this. All these people are enriching themselves. They're going to help them. It's not like everybody's going to suffer. They think they're going to be in the group that doesn't. And I think there's also sort of like, there's I don't know what we call it, a groupthink mentality, but I think that they are just, a lot of them are along for the ride, and they're going to, the sense is like, I'm going to get mine. And this is the path from where I get mine. Whether or not that is actually the smartest path for them to get theirs or whatnot, but that's their attitude.
And there's no oppositional media to tell them the truth about this stuff.
There's no media to tell them the truth about it, but I don't think they would actually even listen to it. I mean, I think for them, it's just sort of what's close to them. They have their rich buddies who are basically saying, like, this is what you got to do. Okay. And you assume you do that and you get richer. I think that's basically it. Mark in Jersey. Sam, I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you, Michael, Matt, Jamie, Brandon, and Kelly, too. I found your show by watching TYT clips on YouTube. Thank the forces of good every time I tune in. I listen every day from 12 to 2, and I listen to TMBS every Tuesday. I recently became a member, and I'm a Patreon of TMBS.
You are a great person. Thank you.
You guys have helped me keep my sanity through this craziness. Before I found your show, I thought Jimmy Dore was a progressive voice I needed to hear. You saved me. I really just wanted to make you all know that what you do makes a difference. Thank you. There are many people like me. There are many people like me at age 38 that just recently started paying attention to politics, and we need people like you informing us. Happy New Year. See you in 2018. Left is best. Bernie would have won. Mark Joseph, a.k.a. the snow in Winterfell. Not safe to drink. Michael, I figured out the best way to get the proper lisp. It's Cernanich, not Thurnanovich.
Thurnanich.
Also want to thank you guys for being the best political show on the internet and not afraid to hold everyone's feet to the fire. Watching guys make me feel like I learned something every new broadcast. It influenced me to pull the trigger on my own stream, first documenting and responding to an insane interview with Jimmy Dore. Without you guys, I'd be hiding in a bunker right now. Wish I could call in more, but my day job doesn't allow for anything more than listening in one earpiece. Well, thank you. Russ Bell Progressive, not proud of voting for Pete Hoekstra back in my libertarian days. Thanks, MR, for eradicating my libertarianism. Good for you.
Hell yeah.
Henry Wallace, your plan to make Cliff more palatable by having him follow an actual brainworm went off without a hitch. Oh. Happy holidays.
Wow.
What was the brainworm?
Dude, well, I'm not going to explain it to you because you won't like it.
That's MR Pajama Boy Toy to you. If any Majority Report fans had a seasonal film, they can't do better than 1990's Metropolitan starring a lovely ingenue named Isabel Gillies. Yes, that was great. That was a great film, actually. Matt and the BK, Sam, on listening haphazardly these days, I think I missed the Apple Talk this year. Belated Chag Sameach for Hanukkah, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to the whole MR family. Everyone gird yourselves for a year of heavy resistance action, as they say on Stephanie Miller. Vive le croque monsieur. Welcome to Jamie. I have no idea why Kelly is gone. Too many episodes behind. Wow, you really are behind.
Wow. Yeah, that's like, what is it, 5 months?
John Armistead, Sam, here's some quick sound. This is a quick 2-minute clip from Dave Chappelle's new stand-up on Netflix where he talks about the same white trash points you guys touched upon earlier this week. Looks good.
He's brilliant. I'm playing it on my show later, and you can play it now if you want.
Do we have that clip on the thing? I got it right here.
Oh, it is 3:08 though. So I mean, what the hell? Maybe we should just wrap it up.
It's the last show of the year.
Well, hey, it's great. So read more of the people's items.
I'm going to. We don't have that many. You got here late. Everybody else has been here for the full show. Negro right. Spiritual. Oh, wow, this is a little bit long. Whoa. Greetings in alphabetical order. Brendan, Jamie, Matt, Michael, and Sam. This is Tim in Boston. I'm the disabled vet who called in recently and mentioned contacting advertisers on your behalf. I'm hoping to help spread the word about Majority Report. The buzz around Mike Selifod's Twitter hunt seems to have created opportunities to raise Sam Cedar awareness. I just posted to Centipede's Reddit AMA asking, what's your favorite president, Ronald Reagan? Because Sam Cedar's rape tweet. Shout out to DJ Danarchy and friends for the Pajama Boys are back jam. Truly inspiring. I only called in as the Sopranos Chomsky character after being inspired by that homage to the Fat Boys. I contacted him on SoundCloud to get a copy and ask about Ben Dankowitz. Happy Merry Christmas. All right, here is Dave Chappelle speaking about, I guess, really those white deplorables.
I must tell you, I've never had a problem with white people ever in my life. But full disclosure, the poor whites are my least favorites. We've gotten a lot of trouble out of them. And I've never seen so many of them up close. I looked them right in their coal-smeared faces. And to my surprise, you know what I didn't see? I didn't see one deplorable face in that group. I saw some angry faces and some determined faces, but they felt like decent folk. No, they did. In fact, I'm not even lying, and I didn't sound fucked up, but I felt sorry for them. I know the game now. I know that rich white people call poor white people trash. And the only reason I know that is because I made so much money last year, the rich whites told me they say it at a cocktail party. And I'm not with that shit. And I stood with them in line like all of us Americans are required to do in a democracy. Nobody skips the line to vote. And I listened to them. I listened to them say naive, poor white people things. Man, Donald Trump's gonna go to Washington and he's gonna fight for us. I'm standing there thinking in my mind, you dumb motherfucker. You are poor. He's fighting for me.
That's good.
He's still the best there is.
That's pretty good. V. I love Matt's bumper music choices. Please create and share a playlist. Go. You can check it out. Look at the playlist on Spotify. Letter Carrier 2017 was a dumpster fire, but it was the first year you had a chance of seeing MR live and in person. Love you all. Thanks for being part of our day's crew. Thank you, and thank you for the mail. Galaxican, there's a horrifying video of some girls in Florida beating up a Muslim girl who's confronting them wearing an anti-bully t-shirt just in time for Christmas. Ugh. Happy New Year, MR crew. You've made this year a lot more manageable for a lot of us. Feliz Navidad, Patron 101.
That's the man right there.
Spay, thank you for all you've done this year. Love you guys. Looking forward to another year with you. Still McIntro, Cedar across the belly. That monkey's lost already. Happy holidays. Jameson, hail Satan. Maria from Canada. Thanks for everything, Sam. We'll see you in 2018. Merry Christmas to the whole crew. Senator Cuck Schumer, thank you for everything you do. MR kept me informed, sane, and entertained during a particularly deaf year. Smash the fash, left is best, and above all, Jill Stein 2020. Melissa Demeanor, please let Jamie do her goop segment. I've never wanted to hear anything so badly. Some good news. The first dollar general in the U.S. just voted to unionize. Oh, that's good. Nice. You guys are a light in the darkness. Thanks for doing what you do. Happy New Year. Restlessly 12. Hello from New Zealand. Happy holidays to you and the whole MR crew. Happy New Year. We'll miss you guys next week. Jackson 852 to Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. 2018 is better for us. And, of course, the Majority Report Steve from MS. Jill Stein 2020. Outler
2020. That I knew that had legs. Gosh, she's
It's really going to do it this time.
Oh, she's so stupid.
Love and thanks to you all. And the second to final censor sweep. Had to do family stuff just tuning in. What did I miss? And the final I am of the year, ladies and gentlemen. And before we go, I just want to say thank you again to all of you. Thanks to the whole crew. I already thanked everybody. Michael wasn't here, so I will say sorry you missed it. And thank you to Michael and Jamie and Matt and Brendan and Kelly and Gary and Chris. Yeah, folks who work on the show. They're not even like in this. Well, they're in this hemisphere.
They're around,
but not in this time zone.
Thank you, dear leader.
And of course, Kyle, who is again, I say this every year, and he makes it true again every year, that we could not do this show without Kyle. Folks, check out Jamie's new blog. There'll be a link
soon to be launched,
and we'll put do we have a link for it yet?
No.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We got to let people really know when it's properly launched.
Yes.
And we'll push the hell out of it.
Just a little teaser. It's coming. Get ready.
Next week, we have some best ofs for you. You will enjoy those shows if you didn't hear them the first time. If you did hear them the first time, listen to them again.
TMBS tonight, last live show of the year at 7.
TMBS at 7 on our YouTube channel. Folks, have a great holiday. Happy New Year. We will see you in 2018. The final I am of the year is question. And it's Sam Cedar 2020. Bye.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bulb. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know